the deliberations of the session, we are awaiting the address of the Honorable Ministers. Sri V. Shivanguti, Honorable Minister for General Education and Skilling, would initially make the address. After that, if the Honorable Higher Education Minister comes, we would hear from her, and then afterwards we will initiate the deliberations. Please.
കേരളത്തിൻ്റെ പൊതുവിദ്യാഭ്യാസ രംഗം എങ്ങനെ ആകണം എന്നതിനെ സംബന്ധിച്ചിടത്തോളം വളരെ ഗൗരവമായി ചർച്ച ചെയ്യാൻ വേണ്ടി പോവുകയാണ്. അറിവിൻ്റെയും നവീകരണത്തിൻ്റെയും പുതിയൊരു പ്രഭാതത്തിലേക്ക് നാം കേരളത്തെ നയിക്കുകയാണ്. രണ്ടാം പിണറായി വിജയൻ സർക്കാർ അധികാരം ഏറ്റെടുത്തതിന് ശേഷം പൊതുവിദ്യാഭ്യാസ മേഖലയിൽ നാം നടപ്പിലാക്കിയ വിപ്ലവകരമായ മാറ്റങ്ങൾ ഇപ്പോൾ വലിയ ലക്ഷ്യങ്ങളിലേക്ക് അടുക്കുകയാണ്. ഈ വേദിയിൽ നിന്നുകൊണ്ട് 2031 കേരളത്തിൻ്റെ വിദ്യാഭ്യാസ ചിത്രം എങ്ങനെയായിരിക്കണം എന്നതിനെക്കുറിച്ചുള്ള വീക്ഷണം പങ്കുവയ്ക്കുവാൻ ഞാൻ ആഗ്രഹിക്കുകയാണ്. നമ്മുടെ ലക്ഷ്യം കേവലം പരീക്ഷാ വിജയങ്ങളല്ല, മറിച്ച് അന്താരാഷ്ട്ര നിലവാരമുള്ള ഒരു നവകേരളം സൃഷ്ടിക്കുക എന്നതാണ്. 2031 ആകുമ്പോഴേക്കും കേരളത്തിലെ വിദ്യാഭ്യാസം ലോകോത്തര നിലവാരത്തിലേക്കുള്ള ഒരു വൈജ്ഞാനിക ഹബ്ബായി മാറും. ഇതിനായി നാം ഇതിനോടകം ആരംഭിച്ച സബ്ജക്റ്റ് മിനിമം പദ്ധതി 2026-27 8, 9, 10 ക്ലാസ്സുകളിൽ പൂർണ്ണമായി എത്തും. ഓരോ കുട്ടിയും ഓരോ വിഷയത്തിലും നിശ്ചിത നിലവാരം പുലർത്തുന്നു എന്ന് ഉറപ്പാക്കുന്നതിലൂടെ തോൽവി എന്ന വാക്ക് നമ്മുടെ വിദ്യാലയങ്ങളിൽ നിന്ന് അപ്രത്യക്ഷമാകും. അക്കാദമിക നിലവാരം മെച്ചപ്പെടുത്തുന്നതിനായി നാം ആവിഷ്കരിച്ച 8 മേഖലയായുള്ള ആക്ഷൻ പ്ലാൻ ഇതിന് കരുത്തേകും. സാങ്കേതിക വിദ്യയുടെ കാര്യത്തിൽ നാം ഇപ്പോൾ തന്നെ ഒരു വിപ്ലവം സൃഷ്ടിച്ചു കഴിഞ്ഞു. 2000 ഹൈസ്കൂളുകളിലായി 7000 റോബോട്ടിക് ലാബുകൾ നാം സ്ഥാപിച്ചു. ലിറ്റിൽ കൈറ്റ് വഴി ലോകത്തെ തന്നെ ഏറ്റവും വലിയ IT കൂട്ടായ്മയായി നമ്മുടെ കുട്ടികൾ മാറി. 2031 ആകുമ്പോഴേക്കും നിർമ്മിത ബുദ്ധിയും ഡാറ്റ അനലിറ്റിക്സും പ്രയോജനപ്പെടുത്തി ഓരോ കുട്ടിയുടെയും പഠന പുരോഗതി വിലയിരുത്തുന്ന സഹിതം പോലുള്ള പോർട്ടലുകൾ കൂടുതൽ വിപുലമാകും. സ്ട്രീം ഹബ്ബുകൾ വഴി കുട്ടികൾ സ്കൂൾ തലം മുതൽ തന്നെ ആഗോളതലത്തിൽ ശ്രദ്ധിക്കപ്പെടുന്ന ഗവേഷണങ്ങളിൽ ഏർപ്പെടും. ഭിന്നശേഷി വിഭാഗത്തിലുള്ള കുട്ടികളെ മുഖ്യധാരയിലേക്ക് എത്തിക്കുന്നതിൽ നാം ഇന്ത്യക്ക് മാതൃകയാണ്. ഇൻക്ലൂസീവ് സ്പോർട്സ് മാനുവൽ, വൈറ്റ് ബോർഡ് വീഡിയോ ക്ലാസുകൾ, 1486 സ്പെഷ്യൽ കെയർ സെൻ്ററുകൾ എന്നിവ ഇതിൻ്റെ തുടക്കമാണ്. 2031 ബാക്ക് ബെഞ്ചേഴ്സ് ഇല്ലാത്ത, ആരും പിന്നിലില്ലാത്ത ക്ലാസ് മുറികളാണ് ഉണ്ടാകുക. ഈ ലക്ഷ്യങ്ങളിലേക്കുള്ള നമ്മുടെ യാത്രയിൽ കഴിഞ്ഞ കുറഞ്ഞ കാലയളവിനുള്ളിൽ നാം കൈവരിച്ച നേട്ടങ്ങൾ സമാനതകളില്ലാത്തതാണ്. പൊതുവിദ്യാഭ്യാസ സംരക്ഷണ യജ്ഞത്തിൻ്റെ ഭാഗമായി കിഫി വഴി 629 സ്കൂൾ കെട്ടിടങ്ങൾ നാം പൂർത്തിയാക്കി. 300-ലധികം സ്കൂൾ കെട്ടിടങ്ങളുടെ നിർമ്മാണം ഇപ്പോൾ അതിവേഗം പുരോഗമിച്ചു കൊണ്ടിരിക്കുകയാണ്. കൂടാതെ 1200-ലധികം പ്രീ പ്രൈമറി സ്കൂളുകളെ അന്താരാഷ്ട്ര നിലവാരത്തിലേക്ക് ഉയർത്തുന്ന വർണ്ണക്കൂടാരം പദ്ധതിയും നാം വിജയകരമായി നടപ്പിലാക്കി. 2021 മെയ് മാസത്തിന് ശേഷം സർക്കാർ എയ്ഡഡ് മേഖലയിലായി 30,564 അധ്യാപക നിയമനം നടന്നു. അധ്യാപകരുടെ ഗുണനിലവാരം ഉറപ്പാക്കുവാൻ റെസിഡൻഷ്യൽ പരിശീലന പരിപാടികളും കേട്ടറ്റ് യോഗ്യത ഉറപ്പാക്കുവാനുള്ള നടപടികളും നാം സ്വീകരിച്ചു വരുന്നു. കോവിഡ് കാലത്തെ പ്രതിസന്ധികളെ അതിജീവിക്കുവാൻ ഫസ്റ്റ് ബെൽ ഡിജിറ്റൽ ക്ലാസുകൾ നാം ആരംഭിച്ചത് ചരിത്രമാണ്. വിദ്യാലയങ്ങളിൽ ഭരണഘടനാ മൂല്യങ്ങൾ ഉയർത്തിപ്പിടിക്കുന്ന ഒരു തലമുറയെ നാം വാർത്തെടുക്കുന്നു. വിഷൻ 2031 നോക്കുമ്പോൾ നാം ചില കാര്യങ്ങളിൽ കൂടുതൽ ഊന്നൽ നൽകേണ്ടതായിട്ടുണ്ട്. ശാസ്ത്രീയമായിട്ടുള്ള പ്രീ സ്കൂളിംഗ് സംവിധാനങ്ങൾ എല്ലാവർക്കും പ്രാപ്യമാക്കുക എന്നതാണ് ഇതിന് പ്രധാനം. മാറുന്ന ലോകത്തിനനുസരിച്ച് അധ്യാപകരുടെ പ്രൊഫഷണൽ വികാസം കൂടുതൽ ചിട്ടപ്പെടുത്തേണ്ടതായിട്ടുണ്ട്. ഗോത്ര മേഖലകളിലെയും തീരപ്രദേശങ്ങളിലെയും കുട്ടികൾക്കും അതുപോലെ അതിഥി തൊഴിലാളികളുടെ മക്കൾക്കും ഗുണമേന്മയുള്ള വിദ്യാഭ്യാസം ഉറപ്പാക്കുവാൻ പ്രത്യേക പദ്ധതികൾ നാം നടപ്പിലാക്കണം. പഠനത്തോടൊപ്പം തൊഴിൽ നൈപുണ്യവും ആരോഗ്യവും കായികക്ഷമതയും വളർത്തുന്ന രീതിയിൽ നമ്മുടെ കരിക്കുലം ഇനിയും പരിഷ്കരിക്കപ്പെടണം. ഡാറ്റ അധിഷ്ഠിതമായിരിക്കും നമ്മുടെ ഭാവി ആസൂത്രണം. വിദ്യാഭ്യാസ ആസൂത്രണത്തിൽ ഡയറ്റുകളെ ജില്ലാതല ഡാറ്റ ഹബ്ബുകളാക്കി മാറ്റും. നമ്മുടെ വിദ്യാലയങ്ങൾ ഇപ്പോൾ വെറും കെട്ടിടങ്ങളല്ല, ഓരോ കുട്ടിയുടെയും സ്വപ്നങ്ങൾക്ക് ചിറക് നൽകുന്ന മികവിൻ്റെ കേന്ദ്രങ്ങളാണ്. 2031 കേരളം ലോകത്തിന് മാതൃകയാകുന്ന ഒരു വിദ്യാഭ്യാസ വിപ്ലവത്തിന് സാക്ഷ്യം വഹിക്കും. അറിവിൻ്റെ കരുത്തിൽ ജനാധിപത്യ മൂല്യങ്ങൾ ഉയർത്തിപ്പിടിച്ച് ലിംഗസമത്വമുള്ള ഒരു പുതിയ കേരളത്തെ നമുക്ക് ഒന്നിച്ച് കെട്ടിപ്പടുക്കുന്നതിന് വേണ്ടി കഴിയും. രണ്ടാം പിണറായി ഗവൺമെൻറ്റിൻ്റെ കാലഘട്ടത്തിലാണ് ഏകദേശം 60ഓളം വരുന്ന സ്കൂളുകൾ മിക്സഡ് സ്കൂളുകളായി മാറ്റുന്നതിന് വേണ്ടി കഴിഞ്ഞിട്ടുണ്ട്. അപ്പോൾ ഈ നിലയിൽ പൊതുവിദ്യാഭ്യാസ മേഖലയിൽ കുറേ മാറ്റങ്ങൾ നടത്തുന്നതിന് വേണ്ടിയുള്ള പരിശ്രമം നടത്തിയിട്ടുണ്ട്. ഏറ്റവും കൂടുതൽ ശ്രദ്ധ നമ്മൾ കൊടുക്കേണ്ടതും പൊതുവിദ്യാഭ്യാസ മേഖലയാണ്. പക്ഷേ ഏത് കാര്യത്തിനും ഏത് നല്ല കാര്യം ചെയ്താലും അതിനൊരു തർക്കം നമ്മുടെ നാട്ടിൽ നിൽക്കുന്നു എന്നുള്ളതാണ് ഏറ്റവും പ്രധാനപ്പെട്ട പ്രശ്നം. ഇപ്പോൾ ചെറിയൊരു ഉദാഹരണം കൂടി എല്ലാവർക്കും അറിയാവുന്നൊരു കാര്യം പറഞ്ഞ് ഞങ്ങൾ നിർത്താം. ഇപ്പോൾ അടുത്ത വർഷത്തെ പാഠപുസ്തകം അത് പ്രിൻ്റ് ചെയ്യുക എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ ഞാൻ തന്നെ നേരത്തെ പത്രക്കാരോട് പറഞ്ഞ പോലെ ദോശ ചുട്ടെടുക്കാൻ വേണ്ടി പറ്റില്ലല്ലോ. പാഠപുസ്തകം എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ ഉടനെ തന്നെ പാഠപുസ്തകം വരില്ലല്ലോ. ഒരു 1-2 വർഷക്കാലം എത്രയോ അധ്യാപകർ രാപ്പകലില്ലാതെ അവർ കഷ്ടപ്പെട്ട് പഠിച്ച് അവർ ഇതെല്ലാം തയ്യാറാക്കി. എന്ന് മാത്രമല്ല, ഈ വർഷത്തെ പാഠപുസ്തകം തയ്യാറാക്കിയത് ഒരു പുതുമയുണ്ടായിരുന്നു. കുട്ടികളോട് അഭിപ്രായം ചോദിച്ചു. കേരളത്തിലെ 14,000 സ്കൂളിലെയും കുട്ടികളോട് അഭിപ്രായം ചോദിച്ചു, എങ്ങനെ വേണം നിങ്ങളുടെ പാഠപുസ്തകം. ആ കുട്ടികൾ പല അഭിപ്രായങ്ങളും പറയും. അതെല്ലാം നോട്ടെടുത്തു. കുട്ടികളുടെ അഭിപ്രായം ഇങ്ങനെയാണ്. അതിനുശേഷം രക്ഷകർത്താക്കളുടെ അഭിപ്രായം എടുത്തു, ചോദിച്ചു മനസ്സിലാക്കി. അത് പബ്ലിക്കായിട്ട് ജനങ്ങൾക്ക് അഭിപ്രായം പറയാനുള്ള അവസരം കൊടുത്തു. വിദ്യാഭ്യാസ രംഗത്തെ പണ്ഡിതന്മാരെ പങ്കെടുപ്പിച്ചുകൊണ്ടുള്ള ഒരു കോൺക്ലേവ് പോലെ നടത്തി. ഇവിടെ നിന്നെല്ലാം ഉയർന്നു വന്ന അഭിപ്രായങ്ങളെല്ലാം ആകെ വച്ചുകൊണ്ടാണ് ചരിത്രത്തിൽ ആദ്യമായിട്ടാണ് 1 മുതൽ 10 വരെയുള്ള ക്ലാസ്സുകളിലേക്കുള്ള പുതിയ പാഠപുസ്തകം ഇറക്കുന്നത്. 57 ശേഷം ഒരുമിച്ചിറക്കുന്നത്. കാരണം ആരും അത് ഇറക്കുന്നതുകൊണ്ട് ധൈര്യപ്പെടാറില്ല. കാരണം മാധ്യമങ്ങൾ വളരെ സ്ട്രോങ് ആണല്ലോ കേരളത്തിൽ. അപ്പോൾ അതുകൊണ്ട് പക്ഷപാതപരമായിട്ടാണ് സ്ട്രോങ് എന്ന് ഞാൻ പറഞ്ഞത്. അപ്പോൾ അതുകൊണ്ട് കുത്ത്, കോമ, അക്ഷരത്തെറ്റ് അങ്ങനെയെല്ലാം കണ്ടുപിടിച്ച് ഇങ്ങനെ എഴുതിക്കൊണ്ടിരിക്കുന്നുണ്ട്. എങ്ങനെ പോട്ടെ ഉള്ള രീതി. മുൻപാണെങ്കിൽ കേരളത്തിൽ പരീക്ഷയ്ക്ക് പാഠപുസ്തകം വന്നിട്ടില്ല. അത് പലരും ഓർമ്മിക്കുന്നില്ല. ഫോട്ടോസ്റ്റാറ്റ് എടുത്ത് കുട്ടികൾ പഠിച്ച കാലഘട്ടം ഉണ്ടായിരുന്നു. ഇപ്പോൾ ഓണപ്പരീക്ഷയ്ക്ക് അങ്ങനെ വന്നപ്പോൾ ഫോട്ടോസ്റ്റാറ്റ് എടുത്ത് കുട്ടികൾ പഠിക്കുന്ന സാഹചര്യം ഉണ്ടായിരുന്നു. അപ്പോൾ ഇപ്രാവശ്യം 3 മാസങ്ങൾക്ക് മുമ്പ് ആണ്. ഇപ്പോൾ സ്കൂൾ ഇനിയിപ്പോൾ ജൂൺ 1 തീയതി തുറക്കുള്ളൂ. ജൂൺ 1 തീയതി അവധിയാണെന്ന് എനിക്കറിയില്ല. എന്തായാലും ജൂൺ 1 തീയതിയാണ് തുറക്കേണ്ടത്. അപ്പോൾ 2-2.5 മാസങ്ങൾക്ക് മുമ്പ് പാഠപുസ്തകവും കുട്ടികൾക്കുള്ള യൂണിഫോം മുഖ്യമന്ത്രി കുട്ടികൾക്ക് വിതരണം ചെയ്തു. ആ വിതരണം ചെയ്തത് തുഗ്ലക് പരിഷ്കാരം എന്ന അഭിപ്രായമുള്ളവരാണ് വളരെ ഉത്തരവാദിത്തപ്പെട്ട നമ്മുടെ നാട്ടിലെ രാഷ്ട്രീയ നേതാക്കന്മാർ. അപ്പോൾ ഞാൻ സൂചിപ്പിച്ചത് അങ്ങനെ എല്ലാ കാര്യങ്ങൾക്കും തർക്കമാണ്. ആ തർക്കമൊന്ന് ഒഴിവായാൽ മാത്രമേ യഥാർത്ഥ സത്യം എന്താണെന്ന് തിരിച്ചറിഞ്ഞുകൊണ്ടുള്ള ഒരു നിലപാട് രാഷ്ട്രീയ പാർട്ടികൾ എടുക്കുന്നതിന് വേണ്ടി കൂടി തയ്യാറാവണം. എങ്കിൽ മാത്രമേ നമ്മൾ പൊതുവിദ്യാഭ്യാസ രംഗത്തെ പ്രശ്നങ്ങൾക്ക് പരിഹാരം കാണുന്നതിന് വേണ്ടി കഴിയുകയുള്ളൂ. മുൻപ് നമ്മുടെ പൊതുവിദ്യാഭ്യാസ രംഗത്തെ ഏറ്റവും പ്രധാനപ്പെട്ട പ്രശ്നം അടിസ്ഥാന സൗകര്യത്തിൻ്റെ പ്രശ്നമായിരുന്നു. ഇവിടെ കിഫിക്കെതിരായിട്ടെല്ലാം കോടതിയിൽ കേസ് കൊടുത്തവരും ഇപ്പോഴും പിന്നെ ഇഷ്ടം പോലെ പ്രസംഗിച്ചുകൊണ്ടിരിക്കുന്നവരും അങ്ങനെ പ്രസംഗിക്കുന്നവരുടെ മണ്ഡലത്തിലാണ് ഏറ്റവും കൂടുതൽ കിഫി ഫണ്ട് ഉപയോഗിച്ച് കെട്ടിടങ്ങൾ കെട്ടിയിട്ടുള്ളത്. ഇപ്പോൾ അടിസ്ഥാന സൗകര്യം ഇന്നിപ്പോൾ ഏറ്റവും കൂടുതലുള്ളത് നമ്മുടെ കേരളത്തിലാണ്. ഇപ്പോൾ 5000 കോടി രൂപയാണ് കഴിഞ്ഞ 5 വർഷക്കാലം കൊണ്ടുകൂടെ ചെലവഴിച്ചിട്ടുള്ളത്. ഇവിടെ ഇരിക്കുന്ന പലർക്കും അറിയില്ല, നമ്മുടെ ഗവൺമെൻറ് സ്കൂളുകളിൽ ലിഫ്റ്റ് ഉണ്ടെന്നൊരു ഗമയിൽ പറയുന്നതല്ല. കാരണം ഇതൊരു ദേശീയ നിലവാരത്തിലേക്ക് ഉള്ള കുട്ടികളെല്ലാം അതാണല്ലോ നോക്കുന്നത്. AC റൂംസ് ഉള്ള ഇതുണ്ട്. നമ്മുടെ വയനാട് ഒരു കുട്ടിയെ ക്ലാസ്സിൽ വെച്ച് പാമ്പ് കടിച്ച സംഭവം ഉണ്ടല്ലോ, ആ കുട്ടി മരിച്ചല്ലോ മുമ്പ്. ആ സ്കൂളിൽ ലിഫ്റ്റ് ഉണ്ട്. അപ്പോൾ അങ്ങനെ അടിസ്ഥാന സൗകര്യം മെച്ചപ്പെടുത്തുന്നതിന് വേണ്ടി ഏറ്റവും നമുക്ക് കഴിഞ്ഞിട്ടുണ്ട്. നമുക്കിനി നമ്മുടെ പരീക്ഷാ രീതിയിൽ മാറ്റം വരുത്തണം, പഠന രീതിയിൽ മാറ്റം വരുത്തണം. അതൊക്കെ നമുക്ക് വളരെ അത്യാവശ്യമായിട്ടുള്ള കാര്യമാണ്. ഞാൻ മറ്റു കാര്യങ്ങളിലേക്ക് വല്ല ഇവിടെ പ്രമുഖ വ്യക്തികൾ അവരാണ് സംസാരിക്കേണ്ടത്. ഏറ്റവും പ്രധാനമായി സംസാരിക്കേണ്ടത് അവരാണ്. അവർ സംസാരിക്കുമെന്ന് പ്രതീക്ഷിക്കുകയാണ്. നമുക്ക് ഏറ്റവും ഈ പ്രായത്തിലാണല്ലോ കുട്ടികൾക്ക് നല്ല വിജ്ഞാനം ഉണ്ടാവേണ്ടത്. കേന്ദ്ര ഗവൺമെൻറ് ഒരു പൈസയും തരുന്നില്ല. ഇപ്പോൾ തന്നെ അവർ അതിൻ്റെ 2000 കോടി രൂപ തരാനുണ്ട്. 2000 കോടി രൂപ തരാനുണ്ട്. തരില്ലെന്ന് പറയാണ്. കാരണം അവർക്ക് ഇഷ്ടമുള്ളവർക്ക് സൗകര്യമുള്ളവർക്ക് മാത്രമേ കൊടുക്കുകയുള്ളൂ. നിങ്ങൾക്ക് തരില്ല, നിങ്ങളുടെ കുട്ടികൾക്ക് പൈസ വേണ്ട എന്നുള്ള നിലപാടാണ് അവർ സ്വീകരിക്കുന്നത്. മറ്റൊരു കാര്യം 2031 അഭിമുഖീകരിക്കേണ്ടി വരുന്ന ഏറ്റവും പ്രധാനപ്പെട്ട പ്രശ്നം എന്ന് വെച്ചാൽ പാഠപുസ്തകങ്ങളിലെ അതിൽ ഉള്ളടക്കത്തെ സംബന്ധിച്ചിടത്തോളമാണ്. ഇപ്പോൾ കഴിഞ്ഞ വർഷമാണ് കേന്ദ്ര ഗവൺമെൻറ് NCERT മഹാത്മാഗാന്ധിയുടെ വധം, ഗുജറാത്ത് കലാപം, അതുപോലുള്ള മുഗൾ രാജാക്കന്മാരുടെ ഭരണകാലം, അങ്ങനെയൊക്കെയുള്ള കാര്യങ്ങൾ ഒഴിവാക്കിക്കൊണ്ട് പാഠപുസ്തകം ഇറക്കി. കാരണം പുതിയ തലമുറ പഠിക്കാൻ വേണ്ടി പാടില്ല അത്തരം കാര്യങ്ങൾ. ആ അവസരത്തിൽ ഈ കാര്യങ്ങളെ ഉൾപ്പെടുത്തിക്കൊണ്ട് ഒരു ബദൽ പാഠപുസ്തകം ഇറക്കിയ ഇന്ത്യയിലെ ഏക സംസ്ഥാനം കേരളം മാത്രമാണ്. അപ്പോൾ ഇത്തരം കാര്യങ്ങൾ കൂടി നമുക്ക് അഡ്രസ്സ് ചെയ്യേണ്ടി വരും എന്നുള്ള കാര്യം കൂടി സൂചിപ്പിച്ചുകൊണ്ട് എൻ്റെ വാക്കുകൾ അവസാനിപ്പിക്കുന്നു. നന്ദി, നമസ്കാരം.
The Honorable Minister had laid a very strong foundation to today's discussions. He outlined the breakthroughs that we have made in general education during the last several years, where there had been focus on improving infrastructure in schools in Kerala, public schools in Kerala to the national standards, where he also focused on textbook reform, how inclusivity and student-centric education is being planned in schools, and also reflected on the possible transformation in the pedagogic process as well as in the evaluation process in the years to come. Thank you very much, sir, for giving the very strong foundation to this discussion. Whatever may be the political controversy about the textbook release or about the content in the textbook, I think nobody in Kerala would have a dispute that Kerala has already answered one big question in education. Can a state deliver universal inclusive schooling as a foundation of democratic life? The question before us now is harder. In fact, the Honorable Minister for General Education also reflected on this. How do we transform education and skills so that Kerala remains a moral leader in equity and inclusion, while simultaneously becoming a global hub for knowledge and high-skill employment? Over the next 2.5 hours, We will explore this question across three linked domains: school education, where we are moving from access to deep learning; higher education, where we are building research and global competitiveness and skills, and we are aligning with emerging industries while maintaining our commitment to social justice. We have an eminent panel: international expertise from Finland, national scholars in development and pedagogy, Kerala's institutional leaders and practitioners on the ground. Let me invite them to share the perspectives. In a very clear timeline has been given by the organizers. We would start off with the schedule. I would prefer to sit there and initiate the session rather than being here. So with permission of everybody, will be here. Maybe you can also. I think after I raise the question, you can hold it. The first question is to Dr. Jonna Kangas. She's a leading researcher on playful learning, early childhood pedagogy, and children's participation education at the University of Helsinki. Her work shows how play and inquiry build strong foundations for later critical thinking. Dr. Jonna, Kerala's curriculum framework emphasizes activity-based, inquiry-oriented learning. And through programs like Manjadi and Marivilla, we have tried to build conceptual understanding and scientific temper in young learners. Drawing on Finland's experience, what are the two to three most critical enablers, whether in teachers' development, classroom culture, or assessment, that Kerala must prioritize to make inquiry-based learning transversal, succeed at scale, especially in public schools serving diverse communities?
Good afternoon, everybody. Honorable Minister Sivakuti and Dr. Kumar and all the organization committee, I heartily thank invitation to be here with you sharing this afternoon. My name is Jonna Kangas and I'm coming from Finland, where it's very cold at the moment. This is my third time here in Trivandrum, and I'm happy to share some of our ideas, questions that I think every society in the modern world is facing about education and the future of education. Kerala's progress in education is the result of deliberate choices and long-standing social commitment to the human development. For early literary campaigns to sustained investment in public schooling, Kerala has built an education system grounded in equity, inclusion, and public trust. Kerala consistently leads India in literacy, enrollment, and human development indicators, and performs strongly on the Sustainable Development Goal Index. That is an achievement that is recognized also internationally. These outcomes reflect not only the strengths of the education system, but the values of society that surrounds it. And this commitment to education continues to evolve. Today, as Kerala moves towards the ambitions of the Vision 2031, a knowledge-driven, high employment, innovation-oriented future, some questions emerge. What kind of competencies will Kerala's future citizen need? And to answer that question, we have to closer look into the schools where the future citizens are currently participating in mathematics lessons or lessons in Malayalam. So my question is, what competencies must teachers develop to prepare those future citizens? And this is when transversal competencies become relevant. They are not as an imported idea, but a natural continuation of Kerala developmental trajectory. Let's look a little bit of Kerala's education achievement and the history. When we look at global framework, we see joint understanding about the idea that future citizenship needs transversal competencies, such as critical thinking, collaboration skills, ethical judgment, global awareness, and digital literacy. These transversal competencies are not only knowledges or skills, and that makes them a little hard to study from a book, because they are transversal, meaning that they constantly change and evolve in dialogue with the society. These competencies allow all the individuals to navigate our complex, uncertain, and changing world and society. When we reflect these theories next to Kerala's education endeavor, the alignment is remarkable. For the first theoretical perspective, transversal competencies help individuals navigate complex and social and technological futures. In Kerala, education has long emphasized literacy, deep learning, and critical engagement. The students already practice reasoning, discussion, and social responsibility as part of their everyday school culture. For the second theoretical perspective, transversal competencies grow through collaboration, shared agency, and reflective practice. In Kerala, schools encourage collaborative learning, peer support, and shared decision-making. This mirrors the interpersonal and collaborative competencies that are highlighted also globally. For the third theoretical perspective, future-oriented systems rely on personalized learning, continuous professional development, and reflective practice-based learning. Here in Kerala, the Vision 2031 calls for knowledge-driven society, one that relies on lifelong learning mindset. And for this, there is a need for teachers who can adapt their professional practices when the context around them evolve. So Kerala is, in a way, already a society that values and practices transversal competencies, and this is a very powerful starting point. And it is known globally that education systems are constantly shifting. And I don't think that in the near future there will not be a time when this constant development is going to stop. The world our students enter is fast changing and complex. Technologies evolve quickly, information circulates rapidly, and societal challenges increasingly needs ethical, collaborative, and innovative responses. In this context, the transversal competencies are not optional, they are essential, because they help learners to think critically, collaborate meaningfully, engage ethically, navigate diversity, and analyze information responsibility. They prepare young people for work, but also for democratic participation and lifelong adaptability, becoming and being responsible members of our society. So, if these are the competencies that will shape future citizens, won't the future citizens need to learn them already today at school? So then we have to ask that how the teachers are able to support and scaffold the development of these kind of skills. I mean, they have not learned them when they were children, won't they? Luckily, we have a lot of international research going on to how in different parts of our global shared society, teachers could be supported to learn something that was not part of their curriculum in primary school, in secondary school, and perhaps not even part of their curriculum in teacher education programs. So that developing transversal competencies begin with teachers. Several research shows that students' transversal competencies are strengthened when teachers themselves work in an environment that encourage reflection, collaboration, and the teacher's continuous learning. Thus, the transversal competencies begin with teacher, because teacher models how to think, how to collaborate, how to question, how to problem solve, and how to use digital tools. Responsibility. The younger the students are, and you have to remember that I'm coming from early childhood education, the more the students look the teacher as a role model. And I think none of the societies in the whole global world cannot waste that opportunity to present the teachers as role models for the future to the children. When teachers themselves develop transversal competencies, when they practice reflective thinking, when they engage collaborative inquiry, when they exercise professional judgment and embrace lifelong learning, these become part of the school's learning culture. With teachers, the transversal competencies do not only mean more school books to teach. Transversal competencies could exist in any mathematics lesson, as well as any Malayalam lesson, any physical exercise lesson, if the teacher knows how to add them in the top of very heavy curriculum. So that transversal competencies are not only something, information to memorize, or not only knowledge to know, but they are tools, how we interact with each other in the society, how we treat and care for the environment, and how we plan the futures and our society. So if we consider teacher as a lifelong learner and an agent of a chance, recent research of teacher professional development shows that teacher competencies are somewhat layered. From the research, can be identified that there is first of all pedagogical competencies that include understanding of the learning processes, and then designing meaningful learning experiences and making informed instructional decisions. I think this is the basic of being a teacher. However, it's also identified that there are deeper skills, competencies that we are calling professional competencies. And these include the communication, collaboration, relational agency. That means the ability to work with both multi-professional teams and many times also with parents. However, there is one more layer of competencies that is called meta-competencies. These include the continuous learning, reflection and reflective practices, and the ability to lead and support the chance. And together these form also teachers' agency. And here I want to be precise. Teacher agency does not mean autonomy only, but it's an agency for pedagogical and curricular renewal together with school leaders and other teachers. It is agency for supporting students developing their transversal competencies. And it's agency for co-creating learning cultures that respond to the local needs. And these all align strongly with Kerala's long educational tradition and goal. So, for that, we need a transversal teacher education. To support this teacher education also must itself embody transversal competencies. Future-ready teacher education is by the research, evidence-informed, collaborative, inclusive, digitally enabled, reflective. This means, for example, that evidence information that teachers plan their lesson based on knowledge and not only based on habit. Collaborative means sustainable and joint work with parents and other teachers. And digitally enable means not only devices in the classroom, but ability to use them to support interaction and learning. All of these won't be working if they are not strongly connected to real classroom practices, where learning happens in close dialogue with schools' current challenges. And this means that our teacher education programs, both the initial teacher education and especially the in-service teacher education, should be forms of scaffolding teachers' experience of these very competencies, as they are expected to cultivate in students. And Kerala is very well positioned to strengthen this orientation of teachers. So let me a little bit sum up of my presentation. I have found 4 key pathways that could support Kerala's next phase of educational transformation, pathways grounded in research and aligned with the state developmental goals. Initial teacher education for developing transversal competence foundation. Transversal competencies should be integrated in the teacher preparation as foundational element of professional identity. And this means that us as scholars and teacher educators have to all ourselves be role models of lifelong learning and reflective practices. Second, teacher agency for pedagogical and curricular renewal. Teachers need structured opportunities to innovate, to analyze their practices, and also to contribute to the curriculum development. Teachers need permission to do so in the school level, also maybe in the state level. Thirdly, professional communities for lifelong learning, where the schools could become professional learning ecosystems, where teachers learn with and from each other and scaffold to learn more. If you have to be fully knowledgeable when you graduate as a teacher after 2-3 year program, there is very rare of youth people who can manage that challenge. If they are allowed to continue learning and developing when they already graduated, they have the freedom to understand that I don't have to be perfect today, I'm every day learning to learn. And these elements support one another, the work best when developed in parallel. The 4 components of coherent teacher education are teacher learning ecosystem, one that prepares teacher and through them students for complexities of the future. So the teachers stand at the center of the development of education. Teachers are the professionals who translate visions in the everyday program and practice. Teachers are those who shape the learning experiences that cultivate our tomorrow citizens. And with the right support, I do believe that teachers of Kerala could confidently lead into the next phases of development. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Jona, for the very elaborate presentation. Taking over from the question which the Honorable Minister for General Education raised, how can Kerala transform to a knowledge hub. She had gone into transversal competencies and also the role of the teachers in transforming Kerala towards a knowledge society, working with the students in knowledge co-production, and also building professional communities for lifelong learning. So thank you for your brilliant presentation. I hope Kerala could benefit out of this in terms of looking at teachers training as well as early childhood learning. We would now hear the Honorable Minister for Higher Education has joined. So hear from her what are her perspectives on the transformation of education in the present context. We would hear from her and then continue with the deliberations. Thank you.
Honorable Minister for Education, Shri V. Shivankutti, respected dignitaries on and of the dais, dear delegates and friends. It is both an honor and profound responsibility to address this gathering on the future of education in Kerala, especially higher education in 2031 and beyond. Kerala is a state that has consistently demonstrated how public commitment to education can transform society. We have achieved remarkable progress in gross enrollment ratio, which currently is estimated at 41.3 compared to 28.3 at the national level, and gender parity index, which is 1.44 as opposed to a national index of 1.01. We have ensured that higher education remains widely accessible. We have built a system rooted in equity, social mobility, and public trust. These are not small accomplishments. They are the foundation upon which we now build our next phase of transformation. Kerala's literacy culture, vibrant academic community, global diaspora, and history of public engagement give us distinct strengths. Our institutions have nurtured talent that contributes not only within the state but across the world. Our students are ambitious. Our faculty are intellectually committed. Our society values education deeply. It is this strength, this collective intellectual capital that gives meaning to Vision 2031. However, when a system matures, it must evolve. The very achievements we celebrate today challenge us to aim higher tomorrow. In 2031, higher education institutions will be populated by Generation Alpha that might focus on sustainability and digital technology. Aligning our classrooms with these aspirations is the daunting task we set before us to achieve. The present government focuses on higher education as a priority sector and allocated substantial funds for this sector with a vision to develop Kerala into a knowledge society and a premier global hub of higher education. Through empowering higher education in the state and by bridging up the gap between employment and education, through curriculum updation, this government tried to address the challenges related to unemployment of the educated youth in Kerala. The new curriculum framework envisions a paradigm shift with an emphasis on experiential learning. by promoting job training, skill enhancement, and encouraging entrepreneurial aspirations of the students. Higher education institutions from the degree level itself promote skill enhancement. Students are encouraged to undertake research-oriented activities, to produce new knowledge, and to put forward innovative ideas which are useful for the society. The 4-year degree program, which was launched last year and is carried forward in a successful manner, creates a meaningful synthesis of all these. Higher education institutions are now promoting innovation, incubation, startup atmosphere, and serious research activities are being undertaken by the students. The physical infrastructure is being developed to ensure lab complexes with state-of-the-art facilities, academic complexes with smart classrooms, modernized libraries, and advanced computational facilities. As far as university transformation and governance are concerned, Kerala's greatest strength in university governance is its commitment to inclusiveness and public accountability. Our high gross enrollment ratio and strong gender parity index demonstrate that higher education in Kerala has remained accessible across all social groups. Even in times of economic pressure, we have protected public education as a social good. However, the affiliating university model, while instrumental in expanding access, now requires thoughtful and timely reform. Going forward, we must gradually evolve our institutional structures to empower them to address the challenges of the time. Cluster models, constituent colleges, and multidisciplinary universities must be promoted. Selected high-performing departments across institutions should be integrated into interdisciplinary research centers capable of global competitiveness. These centers must receive dedicated financial support and recruit additional faculty. Autonomy must be expanded, but with responsibility. Structural reform must be reinforced. Our public ethos, not dilute it. Clusters of colleges must be developed into autonomous degree granting institutions with shared resources and common facilities. We will develop cities with a greater concentration of higher education institutions into higher education cities with common laboratories, libraries, hostels, and translational facilities. These cities will become higher education hubs, capable of attracting students from across the borders. Regarding technology and future learning, Kerala already possesses a strong digital foundation and an active commitment to public technology system. We are the first state to make internet a right of the people and established K-Phone to make that dream come true. Our experience with educational digital platforms provides us with confidence. The future of higher education lies in intelligent integration of technology. Artificial intelligence, machine learning, and adaptive platforms can personalize learning, support administration, and improve student retention. We have the opportunity to shift from mass education to precision education. By 2031, we should aim for full AI integration across higher education. All universities must adopt AI-based ERP systems and become smart campuses. Adaptive learning platforms should enable personalized pathways. Modular courses, micro-credentials, and credit portability must empower learners. At the same time, we must ensure digital equity. Addressing data security Academic integrity and infrastructure gaps is essential. A permanent state-level mechanism drawing inspiration from the rebate model should be established to develop indigenous higher education technologies and cyber security expertise. Kerala's academic culture has always valued intellectual engagement. Our faculty's commitment remains a key strength. Yet we now operate in a conceptual age where creativity, problem solving, and interdisciplinary thinking are essential. The 4-year undergraduate program provides us with a historic opportunity. It allows flexibility, research integration, multiple exit options, skill pathways, and credit mobility. It creates the structural platform to align our curriculum with international standards. Through FI-UGP, we can fully embed outcome-based education and move towards competency-based education by 2031. Integrating research and the creation of knowledge with skilling and employability, aiming at the establishment of a knowledge economy that translates into socially useful products. The new knowledge created in the research rooms and laboratories becomes the mainstay of the new emerging system. Our model of knowledge society is different from the model projected by the Western countries because ours is a people-centric model with an emphasis on social justice. It is intended to elevate the standards of living of our people. The future classroom must prioritize active learning. Ideally, 80% of classroom time should focus on practical engagement, projects, inquiry, and collaboration. Flipped classrooms, experiential learning, and portfolio-based assessments should become institutional norms. Through Industry Connect and internship programs, the students of the new classroom will shift to practical and experiential learning. Now we have industry on campus and connect career to campus programs, and we have about 500 and more techno-business incubators in our colleges. Faculty empowerment is central. Teachers must evolve into mentors, multidisciplinary facilitators and innovators. Continuous professional development, industry sabbaticals, and faculty entrepreneurship programs should equip educators to navigate new technologies and emerging knowledge domains. Fine arts colleges should also be strengthened as institutions that connect local artistic traditions with multidisciplinary learning across science and humanities. As far as research, innovation, and knowledge protection are concerned, Kerala already possesses talented researchers and vibrant academic communities. Our challenge is to build research ecosystems that match our intellectual potential. Kerala must move towards fourth-generation universities that integrate academia, industry, government, and society. To achieve this, we must establish interdisciplinary research centers of international standards and transform every higher education institution into an innovation hub. A central computing facility must be established to support high-end research. Centralized infrastructure should be regionally distributed to ensure equitable access. Translational research, turning basic scientific findings into practical applications, must be promoted actively. Industry-linked projects and collaborative research should be institutionalized. At the same time, academic freedom, particularly in the social sciences, must be safeguarded. Kerala requires strong scholarship addressing poverty, inequality, gender justice, caste, social transformation, democracy, climate change, and public health. International collaborations can strengthen our capacity to generate policy-relevant knowledge. The 3-day National Research Conference, which was conducted at Thiruvananthapuram from February 9th to 11th, organized by the Department of Higher Education and the Kerala State Higher Education Council, brought together scholars, policymakers and industry representatives from across the country, creating a dynamic platform for dialogue, collaboration and knowledge exchange. The discussions during those 3 days reaffirmed Kerala's research potential and highlighted the importance of interdisciplinary approaches, translational research and socially relevant knowledge production. Extending these platforms, converting this knowledge into commercial products through translational research facilities and innovation hubs, and promoting more localized research will be the program that we wish to undertake. As far as vocational skill and career-oriented education are concerned, Kerala's workforce is globally mobile and highly literate. This is a strength. But the next step is to transition towards a knowledge-based economy driven by innovation and intellectual property. The credit to competence framework must become a defining reform. Academic and skill education must be fully integrated. By 2028, at least 20% of undergraduate credits should be vocational or practical. Industry must co-design curriculum. Structured internships must be credit-bearing. Micro-credentials must supplement degrees. Faculty-industry engagement should be normalized. Students must not only seek jobs but create them. Emerging sectors such as artificial intelligence, fintech, green hydrogen, life sciences, advanced materials, and aero defense technologies must inform our academic planning. Through FI-UGP and credit to competence, Kerala can move decisively towards precision education aligned with labor market needs. Internationalization and study in Kerala. Kerala's global diaspora is one of our greatest assets. Our institutions already attracted national and international students, though there is significant room for expansion. Vision 2031 calls for structured internationalization. A state-level mechanism must identify and collaborate with the world's top 500 universities while strengthening partnership with leading national institutions. Selected institutions in Kerala should be elevated as global anchor universities or colleges. They will be reinforced with international hostels and other facilities in alignment with global aspirations. Dual degree pathways and distributed expertise models must be implemented. Attracting NRI students through cross-subsidy mechanisms can support economically disadvantaged local students while enhancing global engagement. Strengthening foreign language proficiency alongside mother tongue education will further support this vision. Societal engagement and sustainability should be ensured. Kerala's higher education system is deeply connected to society. This remains a defining strength. Going forward, institutions must evolve into community learning hubs. Experiential learning, field immersion, and community innovation should be systematically embedded. Sustainability must become a core curricular principle. Responsible resource use, ecological valuation, and holistic development planning must guide educational design. Students must understand that environmental health and human well-being are inseparable. Kerala's strong enrollment and inclusive ethos provide a foundation for quality enhancement. Campuses must become universally accessible and environmentally sustainable. Artificial intelligence-enabled learning systems, modern laboratories and research facilities must support academic excellence. Resource sharing at the state level should become a structured practice. Institutions that require strengthening must receive targeted support rather than exclusion. Coming to my conclusion, Vision 2031 builds upon Kerala's achievements. Inclusiveness, public commitment, academic culture, and global engagement. Our task is not to replace these strengths but to elevate them. We must integrate governance reform, technological innovation, curriculum transformation, faculty empowerment, research excellence, skill integration, internationalization, sustainability, and quality assurance into one cohesive framework. Kerala has proven that education can transform society. Let us now ensure that higher education transforms Kerala into a globally respected knowledge society, innovative, inclusive, responsible, and future ready. Let us move forward together with clarity, courage, and confidence. With these words, I conclude. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the brilliant outline of what are the major activities which are going on in the higher education sector, moving towards fourth generation universities, knowledge cities, with a focus on employability. She also outlined how the FYUGP program is impregnated with curriculum reform, skilling, innovation, and experiential learning. How the current infrastructure in universities are being improved to facilitate international quality, higher education, higher order thinking, interdisciplinary research, and also how governance in universities, moving out of the affiliating university model, limitations of the affiliating university model were highlighted. How artificial intelligence, smart colleges, micro-credentials, and various aspects are going to be brought into the content also has been highlighted. Thank you, Madam, for your detailed thoughts and reflections on the challenges before higher education sector. We will go back to our deliberation. We will now move to the next speaker, Dr. A. Shivakumar, former Director of International Center for Human Development, UNICEF. He's not here. We will hear his recorded video. Dr. Shivakumar is one of India's foremost voices on human development, social policy, and right to education. He brings decades of experience working with government and civil society on equity and inclusion.
Thank you for this opportunity to share. Thank you for this opportunity to share my thoughts with you on the topic of rethinking school education in Kerala. Unfortunately, I have teaching commitments that prevent me from joining you in person. Otherwise, I would have very much liked to have attended the conference. Kerala's school education system stands at a historical inflection point. This session is anchored in the broader ambitions articulated in Vision 2031, which places education at the center of Kerala's democratic, social, and economic future as a foundation for intellectual development, civic responsibility, scientific temper, and inclusive growth. My focus today is on school education because it is at this level that the foundations of capability, citizenship, and adaptability for the decades ahead are laid. Kerala is rightfully celebrated for its achievements: a fully literate society, near universal enrollment and extremely low dropout rates at all levels of schooling, gender parity achieved decades ago. In the 1970s, Kerala was among the poorest of India's large states. Today, it is among the richer ones. This turnaround was not driven by markets, but by decades of deliberate state action that placed education, public health, poverty reduction, women's empowerment, and gender equality at the center of development policy. Early investments in universal schooling, maternal care, and child nutrition, combined with a sustained commitment to women's education and agency, ensured that children arrived in classrooms healthy and ready to learn while keeping extreme and multidimensional poverty among the poorest in the country. While stunting among children below 5 is 23%, far below the national average of 36%, Kerala's children have consistently performed better in school as confirmed by ASAR learning assessments. The result was a powerful virtuous cycle of women's empowerment, gender equality, low poverty, better health, stronger learning, higher productivity, and sustained income expansion. These gains represent one of the most successful access-driven education transitions in the global South. They reflect sustained public investment, social commitment, and a strong normative belief in education as a public good. However, this success was designed for a 20th century world, a world characterized by relatively stable occupations, linear career pathways, and education understood largely as a one-time preparation for work. That world is receding rapidly. Artificial intelligence, automation, platform economies, and global digital labor markets are reshaping not only jobs, but the very meaning of skills, learning, and human contribution. Many routine, cognitive, and manual tasks, once considered secure, are increasingly vulnerable. At the same time, the value of distinctly human capabilities is rising. Judgment, creativity, adaptability, ethical reasoning, and the ability to learn continuously in uncertain conditions. For Kerala, this marks a decisive turning point. The challenge before the state is no longer about access or inclusion alone. It is about a second education transition from access to excellence and from qualification-based education to capability-based education. Improving school education will be central to human development in the decades ahead, but designing it for the future is deeply challenging. Two forces dominate this task. The first is the rapid expansion of digital learning, which offers unprecedented access and flexibility, but if poorly designed, risks social isolation, weakened peer interaction, rising mental health stress, and the erosion of imagination, critical thinking, and deep reasoning. The second force is artificial intelligence. Used well, artificial intelligence can personalize learning, support teachers, identify gaps early, and reduce routine burdens. Used badly, it can de-skill learners, encourage passive dependence, amplify existing inequalities, and undermine curiosity, judgment, and ethical reflection. The central challenge for the school system is therefore not to resist technology, but to shape it deliberately so that digital tools and AI strengthen human capabilities rather than replace them, and so that schools remain spaces for social learning, creativity, and independent thought. In the age of intelligent machines, the purpose of school education must be clear, not to train students to compete with algorithms, but to develop the human capacities that no algorithm can substitute. In an AI-rich environment, information is abundant and cheap. Machines can retrieve facts, generate text, and solve equations, and even simulate reasoning. What they cannot easily replace, however, are deeply human capabilities: imagination, ethical judgment, empathy, curiosity, resilience, and the ability to learn continuously. This implies a profound shift in the purpose of schooling. Education can no longer be organized around information transmission or examination performance. Its central task must be to cultivate habits of inquiry rather than recall, moral and civic judgment rather than compliance, creative problem solving rather than routine execution. For Kerala, with its highly educated youth, this shift is not optional, it is urgent. This has 6 implications for education reforms that I want to list. 1, in the AI age, the role of the teacher becomes more and not less important. As AI systems take over routine explanation and content delivery, teachers must increasingly act as designers of learning experience, mentors who guide sense-making, facilitators of dialogue and collaboration, ethical and civic anchors in a digitally noisy world. Kerala has strong foundations, well-qualified teachers, and relatively high digital literacy, but a critical gap remains. Teachers are not yet systematically empowered to work with AI pedagogically and ethically. Priorities must therefore include continuous AI-enabled professional development focused on lesson design, feedback, and diagnostics, clear ethical and pedagogic frameworks for AI use in classrooms, teacher-led communities of practice that encourage experimentation and shared learning, updated teacher standards that include digital pedagogy, critical AI literacy, and data ethics. In an age of intelligent machines, teacher judgment and moral authority become indispensable. 2, it should always be foundation first, technology second. Future readiness rests on 2 pillars: strong foundational literacy and numeracy, digital fluency, and logical thinking. The sequence matters. Evidence from learning assessments consistently shows that students who fail to acquire basic reading and numeracy skills early rarely recover later. Technology cannot compensate for weak foundations. In fact, when layered onto fragile learning, it often widens inequality. Kerala performs better than most Indian states, but post-pandemic learning gaps persist, particularly among children from disadvantaged backgrounds. The policy implications are clear. Foundational learning must be non-negotiable. Digital exposure should be age-appropriate and purposeful. AI-based diagnostic tools should be used to identify learning gaps early, and parents must be supported to manage healthy and ethical digital engagement at home. Technology should support foundations, not substitute for them. 3, designing curriculum for uncertain futures. Young people entering the labor market today are likely to change occupations multiple times over their working lives. The future of work will be non-linear, volatile, and deeply shaped by technological change. This demands a curriculum shift from content saturation to capability development. High-performing school systems are pruning curricula, emphasizing depth over breadth, and prioritizing interdisciplinary and critical thinking, problem solving as well as project-based learning, creativity and imagination, collaboration, and communication. The future shall reward human judgment, not rote mastery. 4. Rethinking assessment when machines can pass exams. AI can already write essays, solve problems, and perform well on conventional examinations. This exposes a hard truth. Many existing assessment tests what machines can do better than humans. Assessment systems must therefore evolve to capture what machines cannot easily fake: original thinking, collaboration, reflection and revision, ethical reasoning. This therefore calls for greater use of performance-based assessments, portfolios, and oral defenses. Strong formative feedback supported but not replaced by AI, and evaluation of learning processes and not just outcomes. Assessment reform is no longer a pedagogic choice, it is a systemic necessity. 5. It should be equity by design in a digitally unequal world. Technology amplifies existing structures. Without deliberate policy design, it risks deepening inequalities along lines of income, caste, gender, and geography. Even in Kerala, digital divides persist between public and private schools and among first-generation digital learners. Equity must therefore be built into educational technology strategies through investment in digital public goods for education, targeted device and connectivity support based on need, teacher-mediated use of technology rather than self-learning myths, and special support for migrant, marginalized, and first-generation learners. Technology must function as a leveler, not a new sorting mechanism. Finally, and my 6th point, is reconnecting schooling with changing labor markets. Kerala's education challenge cannot be separated from its labor market reality. Despite high literacy and long years of schooling, according to the Periodic Labor Force Survey of 2023-24, Kerala records one of the highest youth unemployment rates in India. Nearly 30% of 15 to 29-year-olds were unemployed in 2023-24 against the national average of 10%, with 47% unemployment among young women against the national average of 11% and 19% among young men compared with the national average of 9%. Labor market reports show a stark paradox. Unemployment rises with higher levels of general education, signaling a deep mismatch between what schools produce and what a changing economy demands. Kerala's labor market is being reshaped by migration and remittances, growing demand in care and health services, emerging green and climate-related jobs, and the expansion of digital and platform-based work where careers are non-linear, multi-occupational, and lifelong. Schooling, therefore, must move beyond narrow job preparation to build career adaptability, vocational dignity, and entrepreneurial, civic, and collaborative capability. The core policy question is no longer which jobs will exist, but whether young people are equipped to transition as work itself continues to change and evolve. This implies concrete policy shifts, career guidance from middle school onwards, blended academic vocational pathways in secondary education, stronger partnerships between schools and local economies, especially in health, care, tourism, green services, and digital services. So let me conclude by saying that Kerala's first education transition delivered literacy, access, and social justice. The second transition must deliver quality, relevance, and resilience in an AI-driven world. This requires deliberate choices, trusting and empowering teachers, redesigning curriculum and assessment, using technology ethically and thoughtfully, re-entering education on human imagination, empathy, and moral purpose. This transition is not about competing with machines. It is about educating people and children for what machines cannot replace. If Kerala succeeds, it will offer the world not nostalgia, but a living model of education for uncertain futures. Seen through the lens of Vision 2031, this second education transition is not a sectoral reform, but a foundational investment in Kerala's long-term democratic vitality, social cohesion, and economic resilience. By reimagining school education today, Kerala can ensure that the values of equity, scientific temper, and human development that shaped its past also equip the children to shape the decades ahead. Thank you.
Dr. Shivakumar had given a fairly good outline of the transition of Kerala from the first phase of its journey from basically from access to quality and capability-based education. He has highlighted 6 points. Number 1, teachers as designers. Number 2, foundation focus on literacy, numeracy, then leading to technology, designing school education for uncertain future, basically embedding transversal skills, as Jonas had indicated. 4, how assessment process has to be transformed in the context of AI. How equity has to be further strengthened by design, and how we can reconnect the schools with the labor market. So thank you very much for the excellent inputs. Now we would move to the next speaker on school education, Dr. C. Ramakrishnan from the Vidya Kiran Mission. Dr. C. Ramakrishnan, I would request you to reflect on the Vidya Kiran Mission is a systemic transformation. From your vantage point, what are the 2-3 structural shifts, whether in school governance, teachers' time, or learning assessment, that are non-negotiable when we are moving the schools from rote learning to rich conceptual understanding? And also, do you see initiatives like, how do you look at initiatives like Manjadi and Marivilla in this larger school architecture?
Respected Minister, respected dignitaries, my dear friend. കേരളത്തെ പറ്റി എല്ലാവരും നല്ല ഒരുപാട് കാര്യങ്ങളാണ് പറഞ്ഞത്. നമുക്ക് അഭിമാനിക്കാൻ പലതുമുണ്ട്, സംശയമില്ല. ദേശീയാടിസ്ഥാനത്തിൽ നോക്കുമ്പോൾ 100 കുട്ടി 1ാം ക്ലാസ്സിലെത്തിയാൽ അതിൽ 90 കുട്ടികൾ പ്ലസ് ടുവിലെത്തുന്നുണ്ട്. ITI മുതലായ കോഴ്സ് ഉണ്ടെങ്കിൽ ഏതാണ്ട് എല്ലാ കുട്ടികളും 12ാം ക്ലാസ് വരെ. അപ്പം 12 ഇയർ സ്കൂളിംഗ് എൻഷുർ ചെയ്യാൻ പറ്റിയ ഒരു നാടാണിത്. ദേശീയാടിസ്ഥാനത്തിൽ 100 കുട്ടികൾ 1ാം ക്ലാസ്സിലെത്തുമ്പോൾ 47 കുട്ടികളാണ് 12ാം ക്ലാസ്സിലെത്തുന്നത്. അതിൻ്റെ അർത്ഥം 53 കുട്ടികൾ വഴിയിൽ എവിടെയോ കൊഴിഞ്ഞു പോകുന്നുണ്ട്. ഇല്ലെങ്കിൽ ഞാൻ ഡ്രോപ്പ് ഔട്ട് എന്നുള്ള പദം ഉപയോഗിക്കാത്ത ഒരാളാണ്. ശരിക്കും പുഷ് ഔട്ടാണ്, ഒഴിഞ്ഞു പോവുക ചെയ്യുന്നത് കുട്ടികൾ. അപ്പം കൊഴിഞ്ഞു പോവുക എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ അത് കുട്ടിയുടെ ഉത്തരവാദിത്തമാവും. ഒഴിഞ്ഞു പോവുക എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ അതിന് റീസൺ സിസ്റ്റത്തിൻ്റെതാണ്. അപ്പം കുട്ടികൾ മാറിപ്പോവുകയെന്ന്. പക്ഷേ കേരളത്തിൽ ആ ഒരു അവസ്ഥയില്ല. ഹയർ എഡ്യൂക്കേഷനിലേക്കുള്ള ഇത് നോക്കുന്ന സമയത്ത് പല കണക്കുകളും പല രീതിയിലാണ്. നമ്മുടെ കേരളത്തിൻ്റെ മാത്രമുണ്ട്, കേരളത്തിൻ്റെ വെളിയിലേക്ക് പോകുന്നുണ്ട്. ഇതൊക്കെ ആണെങ്കിലും ഒരു 10-30% കുട്ടികളെങ്കിലും ജീവിതത്തിലേക്ക് പോകുന്നുണ്ട്. അപ്പം 12ാം ക്ലാസ് വരെയുള്ള വിദ്യാഭ്യാസത്തിൻ്റെ ഗുണമേന്മയുള്ള വിദ്യാഭ്യാസം എന്നുള്ള രീതിയിൽ വ്യാഖ്യാനിക്കുമ്പോൾ ഈ 30% വരുന്ന കുട്ടികളുടെ ജീവിതം കൂടി കണ്ടു വേണം നമ്മൾ വിദ്യാഭ്യാസത്തെ സമീപിക്കേണ്ടത്. എല്ലാവരും എങ്കിലേ കേരളത്തിൻ്റെ സവിശേഷത എന്താ? കേരളത്തിൻ്റെ സവിശേഷത നമ്മൾ ഇൻക്ലൂസീവ്നെസ്സിന് ആണ് പ്രാധാന്യം, എലിമിനേഷനല്ല. മാർക്കറ്റിൻ്റെ നിയമം എലിമിനേഷനാണ്. അതേസമയത്ത് ഒരു ഡെമോക്രാറ്റിക് ആൻഡ് സെക്യുലർ ഫ്രെയിമിൻ്റെ ഉള്ളിൽ ജീവിക്കുന്ന കേരളത്തിൽ എലിമിനേഷനല്ല, അവസാനത്തെ കുട്ടിയെപ്പോലും ചേർത്ത് പിടിക്കുക എന്നുള്ളതാണ്. അതുകൊണ്ടാണ് 90കളോടുകൂടി നമ്മൾ യൂണിവേഴ്സൽ എൻറോൾമെൻറ്റ് അച്ചീവ് ചെയ്തിരുന്നു. പക്ഷേ അതിനപ്പുറത്തേക്ക് യൂണിവേഴ്സൽ എൻറോൾമെൻറ്റ് അച്ചീവ് ചെയ്തെങ്കിലും അതുപോലെ യൂണിവേഴ്സൽ റീടെൻഷൻ അച്ചീവ് എങ്കിലും എഡ്യൂക്കേഷൻ ഫോർ ഓൾ എന്ന് പറയുന്ന കോൺസെപ്റ്റ് എത്തിയെങ്കിലും ക്വാളിറ്റി എഡ്യൂക്കേഷൻ ഫോർ ഓൾ എന്ന് പറയുന്ന ഒരു സംഗതിയിലേക്ക് വളരാൻ നമുക്ക് കഴിഞ്ഞില്ല. അവിടെയാണ് മോഡറേറ്റർ ചോദിച്ച ചോദ്യത്തിൻ്റെ പ്രസക്തി. എങ്ങനെയാണ് ഇതിനെ കാണുന്നത്? അത് ഒറ്റ വാക്കിൽ ഉത്തരം പറയാവുന്നതല്ല, അതിനൊരുപാട് ഫാക്ടേഴ്സ് ഉണ്ട്. അങ്ങനെ നോക്കുമ്പോൾ നമ്മളിപ്പം നേരിടുന്ന ഒരുപാട് നന്മകളുണ്ട്. ആ നന്മകൾ നിലനിർത്തണം. അതേപോലെ തന്നെ വിഷൻ 31 എന്നുള്ള രീതിയിൽ പറയുമ്പോൾ എങ്ങനെയാണ് നമ്മളിനി മുന്നോട്ട് പോകേണ്ടത്? അങ്ങനെ മുന്നോട്ട് പോകുമ്പോൾ ഇന്ന് കേരളത്തിലെ സ്കൂൾ വിദ്യാഭ്യാസം അഭിമുഖീകരിക്കുന്ന നേട്ടങ്ങളുടെ ഉള്ളിലൂടെ ഉയർന്നു വരുന്ന പ്രശ്നങ്ങൾ, അതാണ് നേട്ടങ്ങളുടെ ഉള്ളിലൂടെ. കാരണം ഒരു നേട്ടത്തുമ്പോൾ പുതിയൊരു ഇഷ്യൂ എമർജ് ചെയ്ത് വരും, അത് നമ്മൾ കാണേണ്ടി വരും. അതിലേറ്റവും പ്രധാനപ്പെട്ടതായിട്ട് എനിക്ക് തോന്നുന്നത്, നമ്മളെല്ലാം നമ്മളെ കുട്ടികളെ ഈ ആരോ കണ്ടെത്തിയ കാര്യങ്ങൾ ആർക്കോ വേണ്ടി പരീക്ഷയ്ക്ക് എഴുതുന്ന ഉപകരണങ്ങളാക്കിയാണ് കുട്ടികളെ കാണുന്നത്. കാരണം അത് ഇൻസ്ട്രുമെൻ്റാണ്, കേവലം ഇൻസ്ട്രുമെൻ്റ് റോളാണ്. അതുകൊണ്ട് എന്ത് സംഭവിക്കുന്നു? അതുകൊണ്ട് സംഭവിക്കുന്നത് കുട്ടികളുടെ വൈകാരികമായ വളർച്ചയെ, ഡെവലപ്മെൻറ്റ്, ഇമോഷണൽ ഡെവലപ്മെൻറ്റ് എന്ന് പറയുന്നത്. കാരണം ബുദ്ധിപരമായ വളർച്ച ഉണ്ടാവും, കോഗ്നിറ്റീവ് ഡെവലപ്മെൻറ്റ് വേണം, ഫിസിക്കൽ ഡെവലപ്മെൻറ്റ് വേണം, സോഷ്യൽ ഡെവലപ്മെൻറ്റ് വേണം, ഇമോഷണൽ ഡെവലപ്മെൻറ്റ് വേണം. പക്ഷേ ഇതിൽ നമ്മളാകെ കാണുന്ന ഏക ഫാക്ടറായിട്ടുള്ളത് നമ്മുടെ കോഗ്നിറ്റീവ് ഡെവലപ്മെൻറ്റ് മാത്രമേ കാണുന്നുള്ളൂ. ഇതിൽ നിന്നുള്ള ഒരു ഡിറ്റാച്ച്മെൻറ്റ് നമുക്ക് കഴിഞ്ഞില്ലെങ്കിൽ ഒരുപാട് പ്രശ്നങ്ങൾ, ഇന്ന് കൂടുന്ന പ്രശ്നങ്ങൾ, നമ്മളെ കുട്ടികളുടെ ഇടയിൽ ആത്മഹത്യാ പ്രവണത വർദ്ധിക്കുകയാണ്, കുട്ടികളുടെ ഇടയിൽ ലഹരിയുടെ ഉപയോഗം വർദ്ധിക്കുകയാണ്, പൗരബോധം എന്ന് പറയുന്നതിനെ പറ്റിയിട്ട് യാതൊരു ബോധറേഷനും ഇല്ല. 12ാം ക്ലാസ് കഴിഞ്ഞെങ്കിലും ക്വാളിറ്റി വർക്ക് ഫോഴ്സായി ഇത് മാറുന്നില്ല. കാരണം ക്വാളിറ്റി വർക്ക് ഞാൻ പറഞ്ഞല്ലോ 30% കുട്ടികളെങ്കിലും മറ്റേത് പോകുമ്പോൾ വർക്ക് എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ ഫിസിക്കൽ ലേബർ മാത്രമല്ല, മെൻ്റൽ ലേബറും വർക്ക് തന്നെയാണ്. വർക്കിനെ കാണാം. നമ്മൾ ഈ വൊക്കേഷൻ എന്ന് പറയുന്ന പദം, ഇംഗ്ലീഷിൽ വൊക്കേഷൻ എന്ന് പറയുന്നതും മലയാളത്തിൽ വർക്ക് എന്നുള്ളതിന് വേറൊരു മലയാളം പദമില്ല, തൊഴിൽ തന്നെയാണ് രണ്ടും. ഇത് നമ്മളെ അപ്പോൾ ഇതിൻ്റെ ഉള്ളിൽ വർക്ക് ഇൻ്റഗ്രേറ്റഡ് എഡ്യൂക്കേഷൻ എങ്ങനെ കൂട്ടിച്ചേർക്കാം? നമ്മൾ സ്കില്ലിങ്ങിനെ പറ്റി പറയുന്ന സമയത്ത് എങ്ങനെയാണ് ഒരു വർക്ക് ഇൻ്റഗ്രേറ്റഡ് ലേണിങ്ങിൻ്റെ പാർട്ടായി പറയും. വർക്ക് ഇൻ്റഗ്രേറ്റഡ് ലേണിംഗ് ആകുമ്പോഴാണ് നിങ്ങൾ ചോദിച്ച ചോദ്യം പ്രോസസ്സിനാണ് പ്രാധാന്യം വരുന്നത്. കാരണം എൻ്റെ അധ്വാനത്തെ, എൻ്റെ ആത്മവിശ്വാസത്തോടുകൂടി എൻ്റെ നാളത്തെ ജീവിതത്തിന് വേണ്ടി സ്വയം സജ്ജമാകുക, പരീക്ഷയ്ക്ക് എഴുതാൻ മാത്രമല്ല, നാളത്തെ ജീവിതത്തിന് വേണ്ടി സ്വയം സജ്ജമാകുക എന്ന് പറയുന്ന ഒരു വലിയ ചാലഞ്ച് നമ്മളെ കുട്ടികളെ ഏറ്റെടുത്തേ പറ്റൂ. അത് നമുക്ക് മാറ്റിവെച്ചുകൊണ്ട് ഒരു ക്വാളിറ്റി എഡ്യൂക്കേഷനെ പറ്റിയും സ്കൂൾ ലെവലിൽ നമുക്ക് കാണാൻ വേണ്ടി കഴിയില്ല. അങ്ങനെ വരുമ്പം ഏതെല്ലാം ഫാക്ടേഴ്സ് നമ്മൾ നോക്കേണ്ടി വരും? ഒന്ന്, പ്രീ സ്കൂളിങ് ഇങ്ങനെ മതിയോ? പ്രീ സ്കൂൾ വിദ്യാഭ്യാസത്തെ നമ്മൾ ഇന്നത്തെ മാതിരി കണ്ടാൽ മതിയോ? കേരളത്തിൽ ഒരുപാട് പ്ലസ് പോയിൻ്റ് ഉണ്ട്. കാരണം നമ്മുടെ രക്ഷിതാക്കളിൽ അപൂർവം ചില സ്ഥലങ്ങളൊഴികെ ബാക്കിയെല്ലാം തന്നെ വിദ്യാഭ്യാസമുള്ള ആൾക്കാരാണ്. ഫസ്റ്റ് ജനറേഷൻ ലേണേഴ്സ് താരതമ്യേന കുറവാണ്, ചില പോക്കറ്റുകൾ ഉണ്ടാവുക. അതേപോലെ തന്നെ സ്കൂൾ എഡ്യൂക്കേഷനിൽ ഒരു ക്ലാസ്സിൽ ഒരു ടീച്ചർ എന്നുള്ളത് നിയമപ്രകാരം വ്യവസ്ഥ ചെയ്ത ഏക നാടാണ് കേരള ഇന്ത്യയിൽ. ഒരു ക്ലാസ്സിന് ഒരു ടീച്ചർ എന്നുള്ളത് നിയമപ്രകാരം വ്യവസ്ഥ ചെയ്ത വേറെ ഒരു നാടും ഇന്ത്യയിലില്ല. അത് നിയമത്തിൻ്റെ ഭാഗമാണ്. അതുപോലെ തന്നെ നമ്മൾ പാഠപുസ്തകങ്ങളായാലും ബാക്കി എല്ലാ ഇൻഫ്രാസ്ട്രക്ചർ ആയാലും ബാക്കി എല്ലാ സൗകര്യവും നമ്മൾ ഒരുക്കുന്നുണ്ട് നേരത്തെ. അപ്പം ഭൗതിക സൗകര്യങ്ങളുടെ കാര്യത്തിൽ കമ്പാരിറ്റീവ്ലി ഇനിയും മെച്ചപ്പെടണം, തർക്കമൊന്നുമില്ല. പക്ഷേ കമ്പാരിറ്റീവ്ലി നമ്മൾ ഏറ്റവും മികച്ച നിലയിലാണുള്ളത്. ഇങ്ങനെയുള്ള നേട്ടങ്ങളെ എല്ലാം വിശകലനം ചെയ്തുകൊണ്ട് നമ്മുടെ കുട്ടികൾ ഓരോ ക്ലാസ്സിലും ആർജിക്കേണ്ടുന്ന, ഓരോ പ്രായത്തിലും ആർജിക്കേണ്ടുന്ന അറിവും കഴിവും നേടുന്നുണ്ടോ? നോളേജ് മാത്രമല്ല, എബിലിറ്റിയും വളരെ പ്രധാനമാണ്. അപ്പം ഈ അറിവും കഴിവും നേടുന്നുണ്ടോ? ഇനി അങ്ങോട്ട് നമ്മൾ ക്വാളിറ്റി എഡ്യൂക്കേഷനെ കുറിച്ച് ചിന്തിക്കുന്ന സമയത്ത് കേവലം നോളേജ് ഡൊമൈനിൽ മാത്രമുള്ള ഒരു വളർച്ച മാത്രം കണ്ടിട്ട് കാര്യമില്ല. എബിലിറ്റി വർദ്ധിപ്പിക്കണം. അങ്ങനെയാണെങ്കിൽ സ്കൂൾ സിസ്റ്റം ഇന്നത്തെ രീതിയിൽ തന്നെയാണോ പോകേണ്ടത്? ഇന്നത്തെ രീതിയിൽ തന്നെയാണോ സ്കൂൾ സിസ്റ്റം പോകേണ്ടത്? എബിലിറ്റി ഏജ് അപ്രോപ്രിയേറ്റ്നെസ്സിനോടൊപ്പം തന്നെ എബിലിറ്റി അപ്രോപ്രിയേറ്റ്നെസ് എന്ന് പറയുന്ന ഒരു സംഗതി കൂടി കൊണ്ടുവന്നാലല്ലേ ഇന്നും കുട്ടികൾ ജീവിക്കുന്നുണ്ട്, നാളെയാണ് അവർ യഥാർത്ഥത്തിലൊരു വർക്ക് ഫോഴ്സോ ഇല്ലെങ്കിൽ ജീവിതത്തിൻ്റെ ആത്മവിശ്വാസത്തോടുകൂടി ജീവിതത്തെ അഭിമുഖീകരിക്കേണ്ടി വരിക. അങ്ങനെ ജീവിതത്തിൽ അഭിമുഖീകരിക്കുന്ന ഒരു പൗരസമൂഹമായി വളരണമെങ്കിൽ അന്യോന്യം മറ്റുള്ളവരുടെ കഴിവുകളെ കൂടി റെസ്പെക്റ്റ് ചെയ്യുന്ന, റെക്കഗ്നൈസ് ചെയ്യുന്ന ഒരു ഇൻഡിവിജ്വലായി മാറണമെങ്കിൽ പരീക്ഷയ്ക്ക് A+, നമ്മൾ മീഡിയോക്രസിയിലാണ് നിൽക്കുന്നത്. എല്ലാവർക്കും A+ മതി, എക്സലൻസ് അജണ്ടയല്ല. നമുക്ക് എങ്ങനെ സമൂഹത്തിൻ്റെ, ഈവൻ പൊളിറ്റീഷ്യൻസിൻ്റെ, സമൂഹത്തിൻ്റെ മാത്രം എന്തായാൽ പോരാ, നമ്മൾ പൊളിറ്റീഷ്യൻസിൻ്റെയും കൂടി മനോഭാവത്തിൽ മാറ്റം വരണം. രാഷ്ട്രീയ നേതൃത്വത്തിൻ്റെ മനോഭാവത്തിലും മാറ്റം. കാരണം ഡിസിഷൻ പൊളിറ്റിക്കലാണ്, കേവലം അക്കാദമിക്കൽ മാത്രമല്ല. അപ്പം പൊളിറ്റിക്കൽ ലീഡർഷിപ്പിനും എന്ത് മാറ്റം വേണം, അവരുടെ ധാരണയിലും എന്ത് മാറ്റം വേണം. അപ്പോൾ ഈ രീതിയിൽ ചടങ്ങുകൾ നടത്തുന്നതിലപ്പുറത്തേക്ക് അതിൻ്റെ സസ്റ്റൈനബിലിറ്റി എങ്ങനെയാണ് നമുക്ക് പാലിക്കാൻ വേണ്ടി കഴിയുക? ഇന്നത്തെ രീതിയിൽ തന്നെയാണോ സ്കൂൾ വിദ്യാഭ്യാസത്തെ കാണേണ്ടത്? ടീച്ചർ സ്റ്റുഡൻറ്റ് ഡയറക്റ്റ് ഇൻ്റർഫേസിന് എത്ര ദിവസമാണ്, എത്ര സമയമാണ് കിട്ടുന്നത്? രേഖയിലുണ്ടാവും, സത്യസന്ധമായി എത്ര സമയമാണ് കിട്ടുന്നത്? അതും കൂടി കണ്ടുകൊണ്ടാണോ നമ്മൾ കരിക്കുലം നമ്മൾ കാണുന്നത്? അപ്പോൾ ടീച്ചർ പീപ്പിൾ ഇൻ്റർഫേസിനുള്ള ഇല്ലെങ്കിൽ മുഖാമുഖ സമയം എങ്ങനെയാണ് നമുക്ക് എൻഷുർ ചെയ്യാൻ വേണ്ടി പറ്റും? അങ്ങനെ പറ്റിയാൽ ഡെമോക്രസി വിൽ ടേക്ക് ഇറ്റ്സ് ഓൺ ടൈം എന്നാണ്. ഓട്ടോക്രസിക്ക് പ്രശ്നമില്ല, അങ്ങനെ ചെയ്യണം, തീർന്നു. ചെയ്യാതിരിക്കുകയോ ചെയ്യുക. ഡെമോക്രസി അങ്ങനെയല്ല, ഡയലോഗിന് സ്പേസ് ഉണ്ടാവും. ഡയലോഗിൻ്റെ സ്പേസ് ഉണ്ടാകുമ്പോൾ ഡയലോഗിക്കാണെങ്കിൽ ഇറ്റ് ഈസ് ടൈം കൺസ്യൂമിങ്. ആ ടൈം കൺസ്യൂമിങ് ആയാൽ മാത്രമേ നോളേജിൻ്റെ അവകാശികളായി കുട്ടികൾ മാറാൻ പറ്റും. അത്ര വേഗത്തിലാണ് ലോകം വളർന്നുകൊണ്ടിരിക്കുന്നത്, നോളേജ് ഡൊമൈൻ അത്ര വേഗത്തിലാണ് വളർന്നുകൊണ്ടിരിക്കുന്നത്. അതുപോലെ ടെക്നോളജിയിലും വലിയ മാറ്റം വന്നുകൊണ്ടിരിക്കുന്നതാണ്. ഇത്ര പെട്ടെന്ന് മാറ്റം വരുമ്പം ഞാൻ നേരത്തെ സൂചിപ്പിച്ചതുപോലെ ആരോ കണ്ടെത്തിയ കാര്യം ആർക്കോ വേണ്ടി പഠിച്ച് ആർക്കോ വേണ്ടി പരീക്ഷ എഴുതുന്ന ഒരു കുട്ടിക്ക് നാളെ ആത്മവിശ്വാസത്തോടു കൂടി ജീവിക്കാൻ വേണ്ടി കഴിയുമോ? അങ്ങനെയാണെങ്കിൽ ഇതിൻ്റെ ഉള്ളിൽ കാലാന്തരമായി ഇനി അപ്പം കുട്ടികളുടെ മാനസികമായിട്ടുള്ള, കാരണം ഒരു മനസ്സിൻ്റെ സ്വസ്ഥതയുടെ ഉള്ളിൽ നിന്ന് മാത്രമേ നോളേജ് പ്രൊഡക്ഷൻ നടക്കൂ. അല്പം ലിഷർലി കാര്യങ്ങൾ ചിന്തിക്കാനുള്ള സ്പേസ് കിട്ടിയാൽ മാത്രമേ, അന്യോന്യം സംവദിക്കാനുള്ള സ്പേസ് കിട്ടിയാൽ മാത്രമേ കുട്ടിക്ക് അറിവിൻ്റെ അവകാശികളായി, അറിവ് ഉൽപ്പാദിപ്പിക്കുന്നവരായി മാറാൻ പറ്റുമോ, അറിവിൻ്റെ അവകാശികളാക്കി മാറാൻ പറ്റുമോ. ഇങ്ങനെ അറിവിൻ്റെ അവകാശികളാവുക എന്ന് പറയുമ്പോഴാണ് മോഡറേറ്റർ ചോദിച്ച ചോദ്യത്തിന് പ്രസക്തി ഉണ്ടാവുക. എങ്ങനെയാണ് ഇതിനെ കാണുന്നത്? മഞ്ചാടിയോ മഞ്ചാടിയും മഴവിലും ഒരു ഒറ്റ വാക്കിലെ ഉത്തരമല്ല യഥാർത്ഥത്തിൽ. നമ്മൾ 97 മുതൽ ഇത്തരം കാര്യങ്ങൾ ചോദിക്കുന്നതാണ്. ഇതൊരു എക്സ്പ്ലോറേഷനാണ്. കാരണം ഇത്തരം കാര്യങ്ങൾ എന്തുകൊണ്ടാണ് നടക്കാത്തത്? അപ്പം ഒരു തർക്കമില്ല. ഇപ്പം 3ാം ക്ലാസ്സിലെ ഗണിതത്തിൻ്റെയും അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ഭാഷയുടെയും ഗണിതവുമായി ബന്ധിപ്പിച്ച് നമ്മൾ ചെയ്യുന്ന സമയത്ത് കഴിഞ്ഞ കുറേ കാലമായി നമുക്ക് കിട്ടുന്ന ഫീഡ്ബാക്ക് സെയിമാണ്. SCRT ഡയറക്ടറിൽ വേണ്ടി നമുക്ക് കിട്ടുന്ന ഫീഡ്ബാക്ക് കാരണം പ്രോസസ് സ്കില്ല പ്രധാനം. പക്ഷേ നമ്മുടെ കുട്ടികളെല്ലാം തന്നെ പ്രോഡക്റ്റുകൾ അവസാന ഉത്തരം മാത്രമേ വേണ്ടൂ, എങ്ങനെ കിട്ടിയെന്ന് അതിന് പ്രശ്നമല്ല. അപ്പോൾ എങ്ങനെ കുട്ടികൾക്ക് ഈ പ്രോസസ് സ്കില്ലിന് വേണ്ടുന്ന സമയം, അതിനു വേണ്ടി എങ്ങനെയാണ് അധ്യാപകരെ എക്യുപ്പ് ചെയ്യുക? ട്രാൻസ്ഫോർമേഷനാണ് വേണ്ടത്. നമ്മൾ പരിഷ്കരണത്തിൽ നമ്മൾ സന്തോഷിക്കും. ടീച്ചർ ട്രാൻസ്ഫോർമേഷൻ എങ്ങനെ പറ്റും? അങ്ങനെ ടീച്ചർ ട്രാൻസ്ഫോർമേഷൻ്റെ പുതിയ മാനങ്ങൾ നമുക്കെങ്ങനെ തേടാൻ പറ്റും? അധ്യാപക പരിശീലനത്തിൻ്റെ യാന്ത്രികമായി ഇപ്പം നടക്കുന്ന പരിശീലനങ്ങൾ അടുത്ത 5 കൊല്ലത്തിൻ്റെ ഉള്ളിൽ നമുക്ക് എങ്ങനെ, അത് ചില മോഡൽസ് കേരളത്തിലെ സ്കൂൾ വിദ്യാഭ്യാസത്തിലുണ്ട്. ഇപ്പം ഹയർ സെക്കൻഡറി ടീച്ചേഴ്സിന് വേണ്ടിയിട്ടുള്ള ടീച്ചർ ട്രാൻസ്ഫോർമേഷൻ പ്രോജക്റ്റ് എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ ഒരു വേ ഫോർവേഡാണ്. അത് അവസാന ഉത്തരവൊന്നുമല്ല, ഒരു വേ ഫോർവേഡാണ്. എങ്ങനെയാണ് ഇതുപോലെ നമുക്ക് കൊണ്ടുപോകാൻ വേണ്ടി കഴിയും? അതുപോലെ വിദ്യാഭ്യാസ രംഗത്തെ ആധുനികവൽക്കരണം, തൊട്ട് മുമ്പ് സംസാരിച്ച ശശികുമാർ സാറ് പറഞ്ഞു, എയും മറ്റെല്ലാം എന്ത് തന്നെയായാലും ശരി, മനുഷ്യരുടെ ചിന്താ പ്രക്രിയയെ സഹായിക്കുന്ന ഉപാധിയായി മാത്രമേ ടെക്നോളജിനെ കണ്ടുള്ളൂ. കേരളത്തിലെ നമ്മളെ ടെക്നോളജി പോളിസി എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് അങ്ങനെയാണ്, എനേബിളിങ് സിസ്റ്റമായിട്ടാണ് നമ്മൾ ഇതിനെ കാണുന്നത്. അത് നമുക്ക് നെഗേറ്റ് ചെയ്യാനൊന്നും കഴിയില്ല. പക്ഷേ അതിനെ നെഗേറ്റ് ചെയ്യുമ്പോൾ ജുഡീഷ്യലായി എങ്ങനെ ഉപയോഗിക്കാൻ പറ്റും? അങ്ങനെ ജുഡീഷ്യലായിട്ട് ഉപയോഗിക്കുന്നതിന് വേണ്ടി എങ്ങനെ നമുക്ക് നമ്മുടെ അധ്യാപക സമൂഹത്തെയും വിദ്യാർത്ഥി സമൂഹത്തെ കാര്യങ്ങൾ മനസ്സിലാക്കുക എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ താരതമ്യേന എളുപ്പമാണ്. കാരണം അവർ അതിൽ ജീവിക്കുന്നവരാണ്. പക്ഷേ അതിന് ലീഡ് ചെയ്യേണ്ട ടീച്ചിങ് കമ്മ്യൂണിറ്റിയെ എങ്ങനെ നമുക്ക് ഇത് മാറ്റാൻ വേണ്ടി കഴിയും? അതും വളരെ പ്രധാനപ്പെട്ട കാര്യമാണ്. അതോടൊപ്പം തന്നെ നമുക്ക് ചില പ്രശ്നങ്ങളും നേരിടുന്നുണ്ട്. ഒന്ന്, പട്ടികജാതി പട്ടികവർഗ മേഖലയിൽ, പ്രത്യേകിച്ച് ഗോത്രവർഗ മേഖലയിൽ നമ്മൾ നേരിടുന്ന വലിയൊരു പ്രതിസന്ധി. അവസാനത്തെ കുട്ടിയെയും ചേർത്ത് പിടിക്കുക എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് അത് വളരെ പ്രധാനമാണ്. ഞാൻ ചെറിയൊരു സ്റ്റാറ്റിസ്റ്റിക്സ് പറയാം. SLC പരീക്ഷാഫലം ഏറ്റവും അവസാനത്തെ ഫലത്തിൽ ബി ഗ്രേഡിനും A+ ഗ്രേഡിനും ഇടയിൽ പൊതുവിഭാഗത്തിലെ 62.7% കുട്ടികൾ വരുന്നുണ്ട്. 62% ഇതിൻ്റെ ഇടയിലാണ്. എ ഗ്രേഡിനും ബി ഗ്രേഡിനും A+ ഗ്രേഡിനും ഇടയിലാണ്. പട്ടികജാതി കുടുംബങ്ങളിൽ നിന്ന് വരുന്ന 26.9% കുട്ടികളെ ഈ വിഭാഗത്തിൽ വരുന്നുള്ളൂ. പട്ടികവർഗ മേഖലയിൽ വരുമ്പം 12.4% കുട്ടികളെ ഇതിൽ വരുന്നുള്ളൂ. ഇതൊരു വലിയ ഇൻഡിക്കേഷനാണ് നമുക്ക്, അല്ലേ? എത്ര വലിയ ഇൻഡിക്കേഷനാണ്! കാരണം നമ്മൾ എല്ലാവരെയും ചേർത്ത് പിടിക്കുന്നു എന്ന്, അത് ഇക്വിറ്റി പോയിൻ്റ് ഓഫ് വ്യൂവിൽ നമ്മൾ അഭിമാനം കൊള്ളുന്ന സമയത്തും ഇങ്ങനെയുള്ള വിഭാഗവും നമ്മുടെ കയ്യിലുണ്ട്. അവരുടെ പ്രശ്നത്തെ എങ്ങനെയാണ് നമുക്ക് ഇതാവുക? ഇത് കൗതുകമുള്ളൊരു കാര്യം എന്ന് വെച്ചാൽ, ഇത് വേറൊരു രീതിയിൽ നോക്കിയാൽ D+നും C+നും ഇടയിൽ പൊതുവിഭാഗത്തിൽ 37.1% കുട്ടികളുണ്ട്. പട്ടികജാതി വിഭാഗത്തിൽ 71% കുട്ടികളും 71.8 ഞാൻ പിന്നെ ആ ശതമാനം കുട്ടികളും ഇവിടെയാണ് നിൽക്കുന്നത്. അതേപോലെ പട്ടികവർഗ വിഭാഗത്തിൽ ഈ സ്പേസിൽ നിൽക്കുന്നത് 86% കുട്ടികളാണ്. 86% കുട്ടികളാണ്. ഇത് സൂചിപ്പിക്കുന്നത് ഇവരുടെ പ്രശ്നങ്ങൾ അഡ്രസ്സ് ചെയ്യുന്നതിന് വേണ്ടി നമുക്ക് പ്രത്യേകമായിട്ടുള്ള ക്യാമ്പയിൻ എങ്കിൽ മാത്രമേ നമുക്ക് ഇക്വിറ്റി ആൻഡ് മറ്റ് കാര്യങ്ങളൊക്കെ പറയാൻ പറ്റൂ. അതേപോലെ ഞാൻ നേരത്തെ പറഞ്ഞ ഒരു മീഡിയോക്രിറ്റി എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് എല്ലാറ്റിലും A+ എന്നുള്ളതിനപ്പുറത്തേക്ക് എക്സലൻസ്, ചില കുട്ടികൾ ചിലപ്പം BI എന്ന് വരും, പക്ഷേ ആ കുട്ടിയുടെ എക്സലൻസ് പോയിൻ്റ് ഓഫ് വ്യൂവിൽ എങ്ങനെയാണ് വിദ്യാഭ്യാസത്തെ കാണാൻ നമ്മുടെ പൗരസമൂഹത്തെ നമ്മൾ ഇതാക്കേണ്ടത്. ഇപ്പം കുട്ടികൾക്ക് ഉണ്ടാവുന്ന പല പ്രശ്നങ്ങൾക്കും കാരണം മുമ്പ് ഒരു റാങ്കേ ഉണ്ടായല്ലോ, പക്ഷേ ഇപ്പം 13 റാങ്കുകളാണ്. ഇതിൽ നിന്ന് എങ്ങനെ നമുക്ക് രക്ഷിച്ചെടുക്കാം കുട്ടികളെ, അതിന് വേണ്ടുന്ന കാര്യങ്ങൾ. അതുപോലെ ഗോത്രമേഖലയിൽ MRSൻ്റെ ചില ഇഷ്യൂ ഉണ്ട്, ഞാൻ അങ്ങോട്ട് പോകുന്നില്ല. കൂടാതെ പലതരത്തിലും അരികുവൽക്കരിക്കപ്പെട്ട മാർജിനലൈസ് ചെയ്യപ്പെട്ട വിഭാഗത്തിലെ കുട്ടികളുണ്ട്. മറ്റ് സംസ്ഥാനങ്ങളിൽ നിന്ന് വരുന്ന നമ്മൾ അതിഥി തൊഴിലാളികളെന്നാണ് പറയുന്നത്, അവിടെ നിന്ന് വരുന്ന കുട്ടികളുടെ പഠന പ്രശ്നങ്ങളുണ്ട്. ഇതൊക്കെ തന്നെ നമ്മൾ നോക്കണം. ആരോഗ്യരംഗത്ത് ഏറ്റവും കിടപിടിക്കുന്ന സൗകര്യം നമുക്കുണ്ട്, പക്ഷേ നമ്മുടെ കുട്ടികളുടെ കേരളീയരുടെ പൊതുവെ നമ്മൾ ശരാശരി ആയുർദൈർഘ്യം കൂടുതലാണ്. ആരോഗ്യരക്ഷാ സംവിധാനങ്ങളിലുകൊണ്ട് പെട്ടെന്ന് മരിച്ചു പോകുന്നില്ല. അതുകൊണ്ട് നമ്മൾ കുറേ കാലം ജീവിക്കുന്നു, രോഗം പേറിയ ജീവിക്കുന്നത്. ഇങ്ങനെ രോഗം പേറി ജീവിക്കുന്ന ഒരു സമൂഹമാക്കി നമ്മൾ കേരളത്തെ ഇങ്ങനെ എത്ര കാലം കൊണ്ടുപോകാൻ പറ്റും? കുട്ടിത്തം എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ കളിക്കാനുള്ള കുട്ടികളുടെ അവകാശത്തെ ഇപ്പം ഗ്രൗണ്ടിൽ ഉണ്ടാക്കുന്നത് എത്ര വയസ്സായിരിക്കാമെന്ന് അപ്പോൾ ഇപ്പോൾ പ്രിവെൻറ്റീവ് എന്ന് 50 വയസ്സ് പഞ്ചായത്തിൻ്റെ പദ്ധതിയെല്ലാം ഉണ്ടാകുന്ന സമയത്ത് 50 വയസ്സിന് പ്രായമുള്ളവർക്കാണ് ഈ ജിമ്മും ബാക്കി എല്ലാ കാര്യങ്ങളും പോകുന്നത്. മക്കളുടെ കളിക്കാനുള്ള അവകാശത്തെ നിഷേധിക്കുകയും പ്രിവെൻറ്റീവ് എന്ന് പറയുന്ന ഒരു ഘടകത്തിൽ നിന്ന് ക്യൂറേറ്റീവ് എന്ന് പറയുന്ന ഘടകത്തിലേക്ക് ഇത് മാറുകയും ചെയ്യുന്നത് നമ്മൾ അനുവദിക്കേണ്ടതുണ്ടോ? ഇത് സ്കൂൾ വിദ്യാഭ്യാസത്തിൻ്റെ മുമ്പിലുള്ള ഏറ്റവും പ്രധാനപ്പെട്ട ഒരു ഗൗരവമായി ആലോചിക്കേണ്ട ഒരു പ്രശ്നമാണ്. മറ്റൊരു പ്രധാനപ്പെട്ട മറ്റൊരു പ്രധാനപ്പെട്ട പ്രശ്നം എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ, കേരളത്തിൽ ഏറ്റവും കൂടുതൽ തൊഴിലില്ലാത്തവരാണ് കേരളം. പക്ഷേ മറ്റ് സംസ്ഥാനങ്ങളിൽ നിന്ന് ഏറ്റവും കൂടുതൽ ആൾക്കാർ വരുന്ന സംസ്ഥാനമാണ് കേരളം. ഈ വൈരുദ്ധ്യത്തെ എങ്ങനെ നമ്മൾ വിശദീകരിക്കും? ഇവിടെ ഇഷ്ടം പോലെ ജോലിയുണ്ട്, പക്ഷേ ചെയ്യാൻ ആളില്ല. തൊഴിലാളികളെ കാത്തുനിൽക്കുന്ന മണ്ണായി കേരളം മാറുന്നു. എന്തുകൊണ്ട് ഇത് സംഭവിക്കുന്നു? നമ്മളിവിടെ സ്കൂൾ വിദ്യാഭ്യാസത്തിനകത്ത് തൊഴിൽ മനോഭാവം ഉണ്ടാക്കാൻ വേണ്ടുന്ന രീതിയിലേക്കുള്ള ഉള്ളടക്കത്തെ ഇപ്പം ചില ശ്രമങ്ങൾ SCRTയുടെ ഭാഗത്ത് നിന്ന് നടക്കുന്നുണ്ട്, പക്ഷേ അതൊന്നും എവിടെ എത്തൂല. കാരണം അത് സമൂഹത്തിൻ്റെ അജണ്ടയായി മാറിയിട്ടില്ല. അത് വർക്ക് ചെയ്യുന്ന തൊഴിൽ ചെയ്യുന്നതെന്തോ ഫിസിക്കലായിട്ടോ മറ്റോ നാട്ടിൽ ലഭ്യമായ തൊഴിൽ ചെയ്യുന്നതെന്തോ അപരാധം എന്നുള്ള ഇത് വളരെ പ്രധാനമാവുന്നത് അടുത്ത 5 കൊല്ലം എന്ന് പറയുന്നത്, ഇല്ലെങ്കിൽ 10 കൊല്ലം എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് അഖില ലോകാടിസ്ഥാനത്തിൽ തീവ്ര വലതുപക്ഷം വളർന്നുകൊണ്ടിരിക്കുക. മണ്ണിൻ്റെ മക്കൾ വാദം വല്ലാണ്ട് ഉണ്ടായിക്കൊണ്ടിരിക്കുക. അങ്ങനെ ഉണ്ടായിക്കൊണ്ടിരിക്കുന്ന ഒരു ലോകത്തിൽ ജീവിക്കുന്ന ഇടത്ത് തന്നെ എല്ലാവരും അല്ല, പല തൊഴിലുകളും ചെയ്യാൻ ഇവിടെ തന്നെ കണ്ടെത്തേണ്ടി വരിക. അതിന് വേണ്ടുന്ന ഒരു വാല്യൂ സിസ്റ്റം നമ്മൾ ഇൻകൾക്കേറ്റ് ചെയ്യേണ്ടി വരും. ആ ഇൻകൾക്കേറ്റ് ചെയ്യണം എന്നുള്ളത് നമ്മളെ കരിക്കുലത്തിൽ ഇപ്പം അങ്ങനെയൊന്നും പ്രകടമായി കരിക്കുലത്തിലില്ല, പറഞ്ഞു വെക്കുന്നേ ഉള്ളൂ. അതിൻ്റെ സൗകര്യങ്ങളില്ല. നമ്മളത് സ്കിൽ സെൻറ്റേഴ്സ് എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞിട്ട് SSKയുടെ ഭാഗമായിട്ട് ചിലത് ചെയ്യുന്നുണ്ട്, പക്ഷേ അതുകൊണ്ടൊന്നും ഇവിടെ എത്തൂല. എങ്ങനെയാണ് വളരെ ബോധപൂർവം ഒരു സമൂഹം എന്ന രീതിയിൽ ഈ പ്രശ്നത്തെ നമുക്ക് അഭിമുഖീകരിക്കാൻ വേണ്ടി കഴിയുക? മറ്റ് നമ്മളെ വിദ്യാഭ്യാസ രംഗത്ത് ഇപ്പോൾ SCRT ഉണ്ട്, CMAT ഉണ്ട്, അതുപോലെ പലതരത്തിലുള്ള ഇൻസ്റ്റിറ്റ്യൂഷൻസ് ഉണ്ട്. ഈ ഇൻസ്റ്റിറ്റ്യൂഷൻസ് എല്ലാം തന്നെ ഇന്ന് ചെയ്യുന്ന മാതിരി തന്നെ ചെയ്താൽ മതിയോ? ഇപ്പം പോകുന്ന മാതിരി തന്നെ, അതായത് എബിലിറ്റി അപ്രോപ്രിയേറ്റ് എഡ്യൂക്കേഷൻ, ഏജ് അപ്രോപ്രിയേറ്റ് എഡ്യൂക്കേഷനോടൊപ്പം തന്നെ എബിലിറ്റി അപ്രോപ്രിയേറ്റ് എഡ്യൂക്കേഷൻ എന്ന് പറയുന്ന ഒരു സംഗതി കൂടി വരുമ്പോൾ എങ്ങനെയാണ് ഈ സ്ഥാപനങ്ങൾക്ക് ഇതിന് ലീഡ് ചെയ്യാൻ വേണ്ടി പറ്റുക? നമ്മൾ എഡ്യൂക്കേഷണൽ അഡ്മിനിസ്ട്രേറ്റേഴ്സ് എന്ന് പറയുന്നൊരു വലിയ വിഭാഗമുണ്ട്. ഈ വിഭാഗത്തിൻ്റെ റോൾ എന്തായിരിക്കണം? ഇന്ന് കാണുന്ന ഈ മോണിറ്ററിങ് എന്ന് പറയുന്നതിനെ എങ്ങനെയാണ് നമ്മൾ കൂടുതൽ, ഇൻസ്പെക്ഷൻ അല്ല, ഇൻസ്പെക്ടോറിയൽ എന്ന് പറയുന്ന ഒരു ഫ്യൂഡൽ കോൺസെപ്റ്റാണ്. അതേസമയത്ത് മോണിറ്ററിങ് എന്ന് പറയുന്ന ഒരു സ്കാഫോൾഡിങ് കോൺസെപ്റ്റാണ്. എങ്ങനെ നമുക്ക് രണ്ടുമില്ല വേണ്ട വിധത്തിൽ, നമ്മൾ ആഗ്രഹിക്കുന്ന വിധത്തിൽ, കാരണം അത്രമാത്രം എൻഗേജ്ഡ് ആണ് എല്ലാവരും. അതിനെങ്ങനെ നമുക്ക് ഒരു സിസ്റ്റമാറ്റിക് ആയിട്ടുള്ള ഒരു മോണിറ്ററിങ് മെക്കാനിസം നമുക്ക് ഡെവലപ്പ് ചെയ്യാൻ വേണ്ടി കഴിയും? ഇങ്ങനെ വരുന്ന സമയത്ത് കേരളത്തിലെ സ്കൂളുകൾ, ഇപ്പോൾ മിനിയാന്ന് നമ്മളൊരു പുസ്തകം അവിടെ കുട്ടികൾ 12,000-ലധികം കുട്ടികൾ പഠിക്കുന്ന ഒരു സ്കൂളാണ്. അതുപോലെ തന്നെ നമ്മുടെ കോട്ടൺ ഹില്ല്, നമുക്ക് മനസ്സിലാവുന്ന സ്കൂളുകൾ പറയും. ഇത്രമാത്രം കുട്ടികൾ ഒരു സ്കൂളിന് താങ്ങാൻ പറ്റുമോ? താങ്ങേണ്ടതുണ്ടോ? സ്കൂൾ എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ കുട്ടികളുടെ വികാരത്തെയും വിചാരത്തെയും ബൗദ്ധിക വികാസത്തെയും എല്ലാറ്റിനെയും ഇടം കിട്ടേണ്ടതാണ്. കുട്ടിക്ക് അംഗീകാരം വേണം, അല്ലേ? കുട്ടിക്ക് പരിഗണന വേണം. ഒരു പൊതുയോഗത്തിൽ പങ്കെടുക്കുന്നതും ഒരു ശില്പശാലയിൽ പങ്കെടുക്കുന്നതും തമ്മിൽ വ്യത്യാസമുണ്ടോ? ഇത്തരം വലിയ സ്ഥാപനങ്ങൾ എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ പൊതുയോഗം നടക്കുന്ന പ്രതീതിയിലെ നമ്മളെ മക്കളുണ്ടാവുക. അങ്ങനെ അപ്പോൾ എന്ത് വേണം? ഒരു സ്കൂളിന് താങ്ങാവുന്ന കുട്ടികളുടെ എണ്ണത്തെ നിയന്ത്രിച്ചുകൊണ്ടല്ലാതെ, അപ്പോൾ ഒരു ഭാഗത്ത് പല സ്കൂളിലും കുട്ടികളില്ല, മിനിമം സ്ട്രെങ്ത് ഇല്ല, മറുഭാഗത്ത് ചില സ്കൂളുകളിൽ ഇങ്ങനെ കൂടി വരുന്നു. അപ്പം കൂടി വരുന്ന പ്രശ്നമുണ്ട്, കുട്ടികളില്ലാത്ത പ്രശ്നമുണ്ട്. കാരണം അവിടെ സോഷ്യലൈസേഷനൊന്നും നടക്കില്ല, മറ്റു പല കാര്യങ്ങളും നടക്കില്ല. അപ്പോൾ ഇത് ഒരു ദിവസം കൊണ്ട് സംഭവ്യമല്ല. കാരണം ഇത്തരം ഒരു അതാണ് ഞാൻ പറയുന്നത്, സോഷ്യോ പൊളിറ്റിക്കൽ ആൻഡ് കൾച്ചറൽ എൻവയൺമെൻറ്റിനുള്ളിൽ മാത്രമേ ഇത്തരം ഇഷ്യൂസിനെ അഡ്രസ്സ് ചെയ്തുകൊണ്ടല്ലാതെ കേരളത്തിന് നേരത്തെ പറഞ്ഞ പ്രോസസ്സ് ഓറിയൻറ്റഡ് ആയിട്ടുള്ളൊരു സംഗതി കിട്ടില്ല. ക്യാമ്പസ് തന്നെ കുട്ടികളുടെ ഇടങ്ങളായി മാറണം. ക്യാമ്പസ് എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ യാന്ത്രിക ഇടങ്ങളല്ല. എനിക്കും ഒരു സ്പേസ് കിട്ടണം, എന്നെങ്കിൽ എൻ്റെ വിദ്യാലയമാവുള്ളൂ. എനിക്കൊരു സ്പേസ് കിട്ടണം. ആ സ്പേസ് കിട്ടുമ്പം, കാരണം ചെറിയ പ്രായം എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് 12ാം ക്ലാസ്സിലുള്ള പ്രായം എന്ന് പറയുന്ന ഒരു ഫോർമേറ്റീവ് സ്റ്റേജാണ്. ആ പ്രായമാണ് ഭാവിയിലേക്കുള്ള ചിന്തകളെയും കാഴ്ചപ്പാടുകളെയും പൗരബോധം എന്ന് പറയുന്ന സംഗതിയെ എല്ലാറ്റിനെയും വളർത്തുന്നത്. ഇതൊക്കെ തന്നെ ഒരു പ്രക്രിയയുടെ ഭാഗമാണ്. അതുകൊണ്ട് ഞാൻ നേരത്തെ പറഞ്ഞ മഞ്ചാടിയോ മഴവില്ലോ വെച്ച് മാത്രം നമുക്ക് ഒരു ഉത്തരത്തിലേക്ക് നമുക്ക് എത്താൻ വേണ്ടി കഴിയില്ല. ഇവിടെ വേണ്ടത് പറഞ്ഞാൽ എങ്ങനെയാണ് ഒരു ക്യാമ്പസ് കുട്ടിയുടെ ഇടമാക്കി മാറ്റുക, കുട്ടിയുടെ മൂല്യങ്ങൾ വളരാനുള്ള ഇടങ്ങളായി മാറുക. മൂല്യങ്ങളൊന്നും നമുക്കിങ്ങനെ ഞാൻ മോറൽ എഡ്യൂക്കേഷൻ പഠിച്ചെടുത്താനാണ്. മോറൽ എഡ്യൂക്കേഷൻ പഠിച്ചുകൊണ്ട് ഒരു മൊറാലിറ്റി ഉണ്ടാവണമെന്ന് നിർബന്ധമൊന്നുമില്ല. കാരണം ഞങ്ങൾ സുഹൃത്തുക്കളെല്ലാം ഞങ്ങൾ കണ്ടുകൊണ്ട്, അതുകൊണ്ട് വാല്യൂസ് പഠിപ്പിക്കാൻ കഴിയില്ല. വാല്യൂസ് ടു ബി ഇൻകൾക്കേറ്റഡ് ആണ്. അത് പ്രാക്ടീസിലൂടെ ഇൻകൾക്കേറ്റ് ചെയ്യേണ്ടതാണ്. അങ്ങനെ പ്രാക്ടീസ് ചെയ്യുന്ന ഇടങ്ങളായി നമ്മുടെ സ്കൂൾ ക്യാമ്പസിനെ മാറ്റാൻ കേരളത്തിലല്ലാതെ വേറെ എവിടെയാണ് കഴിയുക? ഞാൻ അവസാനിപ്പിക്കുകയാണ്. ഇങ്ങനെ വരുന്ന സമയത്ത് ഈ കാലാവസ്ഥാ വ്യതിയാനത്തിൻ്റെതായ ഇഷ്യൂസ് ഉണ്ട്, വർഗീയതയും മറ്റെല്ലാ കാര്യങ്ങളും ചാലിച്ചുകൊണ്ട് ഫെഡറൽ സിസ്റ്റത്തെ ആകെ തന്നെ അപ്രസക്താക്കിക്കൊണ്ട് ജനങ്ങളുടെ നിസ്സഹായതയെയും നിസ്സംഗതയെയും പ്രയോജനപ്പെടുത്തുകയും ചെയ്യുന്ന ഒരു അഖിലേന്ത്യാ സാഹചര്യം നമുക്കുണ്ട്. ചില യാഥാർത്ഥ്യങ്ങൾ നമുക്ക് കാണാതിരിക്കാൻ കഴിയില്ല. കാരണം കേരളത്തിന് സ്വന്തമായി ഒരു രാജ്യം എന്നുള്ള രീതിയിലൊന്നും നയമുണ്ടാക്കാൻ വേണ്ടി കഴിയില്ല. കാരണം ഒരു ഫെഡറൽ സിസ്റ്റത്തിൻ്റെ ഭാഗമാണ്. ഫെഡറൽ സിസ്റ്റത്തിൻ്റെ ഭാഗമാകുമ്പോൾ നമുക്ക് ആഗ്രഹിക്കാത്ത ചില കാര്യങ്ങൾ നമ്മൾ ചെയ്യേണ്ടി വരും. പക്ഷേ അതിനോട് റെസിസ്റ്റൻസ് പുലർത്തിക്കൊണ്ട് നമുക്ക് പാലിക്കാൻ പറ്റും. ഇങ്ങനെയെല്ലാം ഉള്ള ഒരു സോഷ്യൽ എൻവയൺമെൻറ്റിൽ എങ്ങനെയാണ് നീതി ഉറപ്പാക്കിക്കൊണ്ട്, അല്ലേ, ഇക്വിറ്റബിൾ എഡ്യൂക്കേഷൻ എന്ന് പറയുന്നൊരു കോൺസെപ്റ്റിലേക്ക്, ഇതിനെല്ലാം ഉത്തരവാദി ആയിട്ട് കുട്ടികളെ കണ്ടുകൊണ്ട് കുട്ടികളെ തോൽപ്പിച്ച് രക്ഷപ്പെടാമെന്ന് അതല്ല കേരളത്തിൻ്റെ മോഡൽ. കുട്ടികളെ തോൽപ്പിച്ച് രക്ഷപ്പെടുക എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ കുട്ടിയാണ് എല്ലാവരുടെ ഉത്തരവാദി. ഞങ്ങളെല്ലാം മിടുക്കന്മാർ, നമ്മളെ മുതിർന്ന ആൾക്കാരാണല്ലോ, കുട്ടിയൊക്കെ വേണ്ടിയിട്ടാണല്ലോ നമ്മൾ ഈ വർത്തമാനം പറയുന്നത്. നമുക്കൊരു ഉത്തരവാദിത്വം ഇല്ല എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞ് രക്ഷിക്കാനൊന്നും കഴിയില്ല. കുട്ടികൾ പ്രശ്ന സൃഷ്ടാക്കളാവുന്നുണ്ടെങ്കിൽ വളരെ മുമ്പേ ജോൺ ഡൂയി പണ്ട് പറഞ്ഞിട്ടുണ്ട്, അതിൻ്റെ ഉത്തരവാദിത്വം ടീച്ചേഴ്സിനാണെന്ന്, എൻ്റെ കുടുംബത്തിനാണെന്ന്. അതിൻ്റെ ഉത്തരവാദിത്വം ഒരു കുട്ടി ഏതെങ്കിലും രീതിയിൽ പ്രോബ്ലം ക്രിയേറ്റ് ചെയ്യുന്നുണ്ടെങ്കിൽ അതിൻ്റെ ഉത്തരവാദിത്വം കുട്ടിയെ പഠിപ്പിച്ച് അറിഞ്ഞോ അറിയാതായിരിക്കും ഒരു ടീച്ചർക്കായിരിക്കും. അപ്പോൾ ഇങ്ങനെ ഉണ്ടാവുന്ന എല്ലാ കാര്യങ്ങളും ഉൾക്കൊണ്ടുകൊണ്ട് ഇന്ത്യയിൽ മറ്റ് സ്ഥലങ്ങളിൽ സാധിക്കില്ല, പക്ഷേ നമുക്കിവിടെ സാധിക്കും. അഖിലേന്ത്യ അന്തർദേശീയമായിട്ടുള്ള ദേശീയമായിട്ടുള്ള ഒരു പശ്ചാത്തലത്തിൽ നിന്നുകൊണ്ട് കേരളത്തിൻ്റെ കോണ്ടെക്സ്റ്റിൽ എന്ത് നമുക്ക് ചെയ്യാൻ വേണ്ടി കഴിയും, അതിന് വേണ്ടുന്ന രീതിയിലുള്ള പുതിയ കർമ്മ പരിപാടികൾ അനിവാര്യമാണ്. നമുക്ക് വേണ്ടത് പരിഷ്കരണമല്ല, നമുക്ക് വേണ്ടത് ട്രാൻസ്ഫോർമേഷനാണ്. നമസ്കാരം.
I will avoid summarizing each speaker's deliberation points. I would now request Professor Rajan Kurikal. Rajan Kurikal is a well-known historian, public intellectual, and higher education reformer who has led the Kerala State Higher Education Council work on curriculum frameworks, the Federal Collegiate University model, and research capacity building. My question to you is, sir, the vision document speaks of reimagining universities through a federal collegiate university system that grants greater autonomy to affiliated colleges. Honorable Higher Education Minister also touched upon this. Alongside centers of excellence with modern infrastructure and sustainable funding, what are the governance reforms and accountability mechanisms we must design to ensure that autonomy leads to innovation and quality rather than fragmentation and inequality across institutions?
Good afternoon, everybody. Before responding to this question that is relating to institutional rearrangements and then resolving some of the problems impeding quality, that's very important. But before going into that question, I would discuss some of the indications we get based on which we should be able to anticipate what after a decade. There is no point in characterizing what we say by way of institutional manifestations. But certain things are quite clear, that on the one side, we are just baby boomers. We do not know how to plan the education, the process and modes of learning of the next generation. They will decide, and along with the technology, they would enable, and then we have to be facilitators and also critical intermediaries, beyond which we won't be able to do anything. The Alpha Gen students, otherwise called screen age children, we do not have any idea about the nature of their sensibility. They have been developing sensibility through the electronic media. They do not use our method of understanding, method of memorizing, and methods of reproduction. So let us very critically ask the basic question, who are we to plan for them? This is a very humble question because we do not know what do they require, and then a pitiable situation is that we have been forcing them to be in our way, and that has terribly incapacitated them. How to liberate them out of this? Then they will be on their own wings, and educational institutions, particularly higher education institutions, are meant to maximize their resources. Instead, our entrenched practices and very rigid institutions, made more rigid through statutes and regulations, are pinioning their hands behind, and they are not able to act. Pass on. You can pass on to, yes. Which one? Upper? Yes. I'm discussing this, the alpha generation turn, then the institutional paradox, and then teaching issue. We have been celebrating various features and achievements of Kerala. It's fine, I also take pride about it. But the pity is, no, we are still in that unashamed phase of teacher-centric system. Why should there be teachers in higher education institutions? There we need scholars with critical and creative ability to be in between generative AI-powered interactive tools and then the learners. Learners should be allowed to interact with the AI-powered instruments. Are we prepared to teach with ChatGPT opened, asking children to ask questions to ChatGPT, let the responses appear on the board, let everybody read it. Teachers also should read. And after such interaction, the teacher should be capable of reviewing the responses. That's why I'm saying teachers capable of critically intervening to point out the mechanicalness of responses given by the AI. And then the utterly obsolete kind of responses given, and sometimes totally misguided kind of answers, contradictions, mistakes. It's true that there is a caveat. ChatGPT begins saying that there can be mistakes in this, but people do not take care of that. They all think within seconds you are getting answers. But ChatGPT is a higher language software which will be immediately mustering all the resources available in the web. Otherwise, no, it doesn't have any discretion. If you argue with it, then you will know the hollowness of it. And then also it will go on thanking you. See, your highly critical kind of questions will tame an AI-powered response. This students should see and experience. We cannot prevent students using artificial intelligence-based sources for gaining knowledge. We were not worried about Wikipedia. We never thought about it. There was no prohibition about it. But now, teachers are thinking about preventing students from using AI in writing assignments. No teacher will be able to identify the responses copied from an AI-powered tool by an intelligent student. That intelligent student will be capable of understanding the recurrences and regularities very clearly seen in AI responses. These things can be stripped off and then produce a brilliant answer. Teacher will think, okay, the student has become suddenly very studious and scholarly, and it's because of my teaching. See, a teacher can only understand the level of students by maintaining personal acquaintance and continuous evaluation. So you know the standard and capability of X and Y, and on the basis of that, certainly you can predict the nature of articulation and then the logical capability of organizing responses and so on. And suddenly, if the student is showing a totally different kind of level, then call the student and then ask to disclose whether the student has been using very mechanically the AI-powered tools in ChatGPT. Or tell him or tell her frankly that this is a ChatGPT response. I want your response. Now, you close the assignment. Tell me the answer to this question. Then you will be able to assess the capability of the student. Anyway, our 4-year undergraduate program has been opening up a field of enormous freedom for students. Unfortunately, they are not able to understand that they can use this program and then the digital technology based tools to become part of the global learners community. She can listen to any of the excellent lectures available in the net and also build up huge network among co-learners. She can be a cohort to any of the systems of relationship in the global level learners. That way, the student is really able to learn anytime from any source, and then a student can very confidently say, okay, if you want to evaluate me, you evaluate me anytime when you want. See, that is the autonomy which is available. Then yes, then student skill thing. We all know that the skill required is being determined by the dominant economy. So we all have a feeling that our affirmative actions and then high quality objectives can easily be implemented. No. I am not speaking just as a pessimist. We are all actors. Sometimes we may be critical and so on. That kind of critical positioning is nothing but a reverse circling in an eddy. But this eddy itself being just a bubble-like thing in the current. A river will carry it, but a dish will be there. Now, like that, our radical positioning is nothing but a dish in the dominant economy. Which is the dominant economy? That's what we are saying, calling knowledge economy. Most of us do not think seriously about what knowledge economy means, how it works. It is a marketable knowledge production, exchange, mobilization of consumption. Like any other economy, it's an economy of production, consumption, and exchange. This is knowledge production. For what? For exchanging for a price, and then there are buyers. But marketable knowledge production is not anything left to us freely. It is a controlled system of production. Here you find this economy is reversing the generally accepted economic laws. Now, in any industry, you know that there is this law of diminishing, it's not utility, but returns. There is a law of diminishing returns, but that law doesn't apply to knowledge production. Because, knowledge is an ever-renewed kind of thing. It's not just a homogeneous kind of commodity. This ever-renewed commodity is not amenable to any influence of that kind. So an industry which is producing knowledge is not to be worried about the law of diminishing returns. Now, another thing, it's a buyer determines the price to the level that is shocking to the producer. You see the possibility of bargaining in the market, but here there is no capacity for the manufacturer to bargain. Now imagine the situation of exchange between the owner of Facebook and the two owners, John Coombe and Brian Acton. These two youngsters designed WhatsApp. One fine morning, Mark Zuckerberg, the owner of, his co-owner of Facebook, is the principal share, and he was the main architect of that. He rang up Jan Coombe. Hello, gentlemen, I would like to purchase WhatsApp for $19.4 billion. John Coombe was not able to respond. He just told him, I'll call my friend Brian Acton. We jointly will respond to you. Fine. But don't take time. It's not usual kind. You take your own time. No. Immediate purchase. Then, Brian Acton was also not able to say anything. That's the kind of purchase and sale taking place in software. There, from the side of the buyer or from the side of the seller, you don't find any further negotiations. On the one side, you have the buyer ready to offer anything else without any demand from the other side. That was still an open one. Zuckerberg told them, the share level that you would like to possess there, decide later. So you have freedom to choose the level of share that you should maintain. See here, the buyer is very clear about the potential of this software, whereas the manufacturers were unaware of that. This is the interesting contradiction in the economy which you do not see in the case of other economies. So the whole economics will have to be critically reviewed in the classrooms. You ask a question to ChatGPT, ChatGPT won't give you a clear critical answer which a maverick professor alone will be able to render plausible in the classroom. That's the kind of class you require. Teach economics, fine, but economics will have to be taught in the context of the dominant industry, the latest form of industry called techno-capitalism or knowledge capitalism. This is knowledge economy. But we confuse between knowledge economy and information society. We call information society knowledge society. See, if you want to call knowledge society, then either you should be able to be consumers like Zuckerberg. Because, see here, latest kind of knowledge is being purchased like that. Now, if you consider a buyer as the component of society, the buyer of knowledge will constitute knowledge society. Knowledge using society is the general understanding. Then what kind of knowledge are we using? We are to a great extent using pieces of information and then the meaningfully organized pieces of information in the form of advertisements. That is, in a way, cultivating a kind of commodity consumption in the brain. Nothing else. Is manufacturing consent. That is the process called. Manufacturing consent of the buyer. This can be through various imaginary constructions. The advertisement can use the language of health and all kinds of mystified notions. There, social media will be taking them. And you find YouTube acting as the medium, a software. And that software owner knows the importance of it, and through advertisements, he or she will be able to proliferate knowledge. Then, what about the manufacturers of this knowledge? They are corporates. There are huge research establishments run by these corporates. They are not depending upon university departments. They are not depending upon even well-established research institutions. They have huge research establishments of their own. And that is in the process of production of knowledge. In one of the studies of 2013, DuPont had something like anyway, that's not very important. Around 2,000 patents already acquired, and then the same number in the pipeline. These a huge number of patents goes to DuPont, a company, and who were acting as the inventors? Youngsters, without knowing that they were acting as robots, developing small modules. These modules will be processed by huge master computer, and this computer will suggest this is new knowledge or this is not eligible for putting up in the application for patency and so on. Their AI is deciding everything. AI will very quickly decide this. And I'm saying we are baby boomers in institution designing because take our codes. AI will take 3-4 seconds in making a very clear judgment of even a complicated case. China is practicing. China started practicing it. So we have years-long petitions pending. That is perhaps the most aggressive kind of injustice that has happened through institutionalization, because you carry the entire human drudgery into the judiciary, and there a person waited till death for justice, but that was not delivered. That kind of situation will not occur. If you leave the case to AI, decision is then and there. Judgment will be given immediately by the AI. And it's in the context of that kind of technology we are planning. I am pretty sure that after a decade, I will not be alive, but after 10 years, definitely children will be using AI, and the AI-powered tools would be totally different. Children will learn with a headset that will enable them tactility and then smell everything which is otherwise impossible. Say touching an underwater, deep water fish, getting its smell, examining it, all these with the tactility and then all sorts of sensory feelings that your description will not give, your laboratories will not give. So we have no idea about how the laboratories should be designed, how their classes should be organized. So all these, they themselves would tell us, and then we, as controllers of resources, would be able to organize them for, organize this for them. So we do not know the structure of the university after 10 years, the higher education institutions after 10 years. Maybe after 10 years, like ATM, you have the degree offering stations. A student is ready to give, I'm not joking, a student is ready to give responses. Now you ask any complicated question, the student will be ready. So you don't ask a cumbersome application to fill in that where she has studied, how long, nothing. You assess the capability. The student has freedom, goes to the machine, gets the certificate. The machine itself will transfer to the station concerned. The whole grade will be transferred, and then degree will be printed by the machine, certified. It all happens in a minute, couple of minutes. Okay. Then again, certain data would be fed in another computer. Computer will make applications and then give the information. Okay, you are wanted in such and such place, take your job. We do not know the kind of technological wonders that are likely to happen. That's the reason why I am saying that after 10 years, actually we do not know what will happen, but in certain situations, changes will be very slow because we are capable of holding children to the lower level without allowing them to maximize their capability, and therefore there could be slowness. Otherwise, there is no chance. There are certain very interesting books which is very important. One is Techno-Capitalism, a critical perspective, and then all these. There is a very interesting study by Michael Perelman. The title itself is very interesting. Steal This Idea. That's the main title. Corporate confiscation of intellectual property rights. The second title explains what it is. Corporate confiscation. It is confiscation. Creativity, innovativeness, whatever you call, is being confiscated. Youngsters are going to be appointed in thousands. They are there. They are working like that in huge corporate establishments. They are working like robots. And then after some age, they'll get a memo, in beautiful language, of course, thanking them for the service. Some money is already calculated by the machine. That is also paid. Whom to complain? You do not have anybody. It's all machine regulated. It has already started now. In DuPont, it has been there from 2011. Now there are several companies, and these companies are appointing thousands of youngsters, and their capability, innovativeness is being confiscated. Intellectual property right is being confiscated. So Michael Perelman's book should be read by all the youngsters. Then Weinberg wrote the first book, Critical Theory of Technology, and then Michael Perelman. Now there are 3 books by Luis Suarez Villa. Thank you very much.
Now move on to Professor Mins. Professor Mins is a mathematician, computer scientist, and former Vice Chancellor of the Sidhu Kanu Murmu University. She is the first woman to co-lead a UNESCO chair focused on transforming indigenous knowledge research, governance, and advancing indigenous rights and self-determination. Professor Mins, you have lived and led institutions while advocating for Adivasi, Dalit, and first-generation students. You also work to mainstream tribal languages, art, cultural, and knowledge systems in universities. What would be a truly inclusive and epistemically just university education system look like in practice? Not just in access, but in whose knowledge, languages, and life worlds are present in curricula, research, and governance? And what kinds of institutional practice are fundamentally incompatible with that vision?
Thank you very much, Dr. Unni, for a very this profound question to me. Dignitaries on the dais, my esteemed co-panelists and friends of the dais, it is my really personal privilege and an honor to be here amongst you all. I almost, like, not by features, facial features, but if we do a language mapping, I also feel like an international conference person. But but in North India, where I come from, I'm equally an international person because either my language or my features don't gel. So what am I talking? To be in this session, transforming education and skills, and that too in the state of Kerala, Vision 2031. Me coming from a very, very small village, I originated from a small village on the border of Chhattisgarh and Jharkhand, and Adivasi to be mentioned. However, having had a very privileged education and to have had the trajectory Dr. Unni just read out, I think it becomes my responsibility also to bring on the table probably the reasons why the literacy of STs in Kerala is not in parity with the literacy rate of Kerala. Now, I was just looking at all the sessions. We've had wonderful sessions in this conference. And needless to say, the session on social empowerment would have had a very, very inclusive panel. I was just looking at the representation or, how the process, there has been immense labor in identifying who could be the panelists in each of the sessions. However, not to criticize, but then just to point out something which I might want to pitch at the term democracy rather than just development, which is part of the foci for the Vision 2031. I was looking at this development with gender justice, that session. We have no male of all the 7 panelists, okay? Enterprise, technology, and innovation, we have 1 woman out of 9. Cultural development, heritage, and tourism, there's 6 women out of 9. Scientific management of energy and water resource, 1 woman out of 6. Transforming education and skills, we are 2 women out of 8, 4 former vice chancellors out of 8. Very, very careful thought which has gone into composing this panel. And I want to congratulate the designers of these sessions that at least this panel in which I am present seems to have had much better inclusion. I wouldn't be able to discern how inclusive beyond what is physical diversity has been all in these panels. However, which I'm pointing out to is also engagement and representation. Now for the vision, I'm speaking to the state, not coming from here, but then the state of Kerala, which in the state, some websites it says, extreme poverty-free Kerala. Food, safe housing, livelihood support, healthcare services. Kerala is the state which is leading in so many ways. I think it's difficult to count on the 10 fingers. However, this is an important conference, a very, very important session even here. And the question that was brought to me by Dr. Unni, I really want to appreciate, because I think it is no artificial intelligence that would have given you, Dr. Unni, this question, right, to ask me. And it says, if I may just read it again, it says, Okay, you've also worked to mainstream tribal language, art, culture, and knowledge systems in universities. I've been a professor of computer science, researching on AI ML for analytics, but I had a window of only 3 years, one term of being vice chancellor of one of the universities in Jharkhand. Of the 3 years, first year went off to COVID. Okay? Now, in various states, there are various governance systems, and I'm sure Kerala has far better autonomy in the state universities than my own home university. I have been all my life, 33 years in JNU, so I've lived and have an experience of what a euphoric education system also could be, higher as well as school, to the extent primary, and now today I want to pitch for even before primary, because NEP does open a window for early childhood, and therefore at the level of Anganwadi. Now, UNESCO mandate of Education 2030 framework for action has given a framework. What progress have we made between 15 to 24? Kerala would have its scorecard, I'm sure. What challenges have been there? Okay, I'm sure besides the two departments, the general education and higher education would have that, and we had the presence of the ministers, and the minister for higher education, she really painted a nice thing as to what must be done, and and parts of it also was how it could also be done. But yet, that little black dot, which causes the disparity in the literacy rate, and therefore is an indication of not the access not being so easy, and therefore a responsibility for equity for certain section, which is just 1% of Kerala's population. Now, in the ST landscaping or mapping of the country, Kerala doesn't feature in the list which gets the attention. Why? Because the population of STs in Kerala is less than 5 lakh. And all the states which have got ST population more than 5, they feature and they get all the attention for whatever vocabulary needs to be used, as well as studies on, for, and of the tribals. Now, so therefore, if I'm again coming here to answer Dr. Unni's question, as well as, to also think that this 1%, which is less than 5 lakhs, is not an insignificant number. Why? Because it is about people. And the people, now, it is easy to just speak about, do some budget for primary, budget for secondary, budget for higher secondary, budget for, and I'm actually talking to a state where there are 24 MRS schools, there are 115 hostels, where roughly 15,000 students are. It's been 35 years and not less. Has there been some kind of review and evaluation of what has gone on through these schools? Where have the students who came from the primary, the tribal students, the Adivasis of mainly Wayanad and the surrounding, okay, have these students come to MRS after primary? Of course, yes. What happens at the MRS and what after MRS? Has that been taken into consideration? There are PhDs, Adivasis from the area, not only in humanities, also science. Okay? I wish they were here, because we would then be speaking what has not been achieved under the UNESCO's 2030 framework, and to focus on the the requirements which could then be customized, as the minister was mentioning, instead of mass, for customized education. And also, the words such as critical thinking, social engagement, physical well-being, what do they mean to this population? Why am I trying to hammer here in this session, speaking to all the stakeholders as well as others? I come from the state where the population of Adivasis is nearly 30%. I was a vice chancellor for a term, 3 years. Why am I hammering Kerala? Always, for anything which is supposedly feasible, there has to be a pilot, right? And I have the confidence that the Kerala, with its all affirmative attitude, I'm not just talking about sensitivity, the attitude, it is possible to do a pilot here, so that can be also taken to my state, Jharkhand, probably Chhattisgarh next door, and all the central Indian Adivasi belt, where there is so much of stress and distress both. Stress to do development and distress because we do not like the word development. The development that comes even as an education and the matter of the state subject is an outsider's perspective. Have we been engaged? Does my language have any dignity? It took 50 years in Ranchi University way back in 1973-74, the 5 tribal languages got taught. Period. It took nearly 50 years in yet another university that was given to me to have an MA in Santal Culture Studies program to be instituted. And I hope that will remain and become a leading institute for not only Santal Tribal and Indigenous Research Institute for this country, and hopefully in the next 5 years. Now, so it requires only a tribal to do that, because a tribal did it 50 years ago in Ranchi University. It again took a tribal to get a master's in Santal Culture Studies in Sidhu Kanu Murmu University. Why am I saying that? There is so much of it. The system such as education is also so much target oriented. A few days ago, probably last week, there was a news article how the Gen Alpha, for whom we should not be doing the design, Dr. Rajan just mentioned, they are taking to being non-aspirational generation and taking a laid-back career. Adivasis have always been that. Adivasis have always been that. Even after a very good high IT degree, if somebody has worked for 15 years in the industry and then decides to go back and have a laid-back life in the village, I'm talking about Kerala, and two persons, one a banker as well as one a railway person, they just chucked the job. They said, no more, and I'm going back. And they are living in their own villages. Okay? Now, there are these tussles between life and what is described as life, as well as livelihood. So is this education only about degree that was being talked about? We could have ATMs also printing the quite possible. And why not? But then, does it really speak into my livelihood and the requirements of life? Because I have a case study with me where the housing plan for the tribal settlement was there, and the person, a tribal group, a tribal design forum was given to see that and review. What has been one-liner there? The housing, the life might continue in this settlement, but living does not. Okay, so For a tribal, it's not just a house, which in Hindi is used makan. Okay? Ghar nahi, makan. I don't know the Malayalam words for those. Makan is just a structure, okay? And ghar is like home. All right? So one gets a makan, but one doesn't get a home, probably. And so, I mean, but then if people are engaged, now coming back to education. Now in higher education, we have in Jharkhand, or in Ranchi, no, Jharkhand, all the universities have teaching and degrees in tribal languages. Sidhu Kanu Murmu University got a second MA program, Culture Studies, okay? But has this epistemic justice, I would consider this as, for academic justice, this was an epistemic justice. But does this epistemic justice begin where education begin? No. I have to leave my language in the house to enter the classroom. I have to leave my cultural practices, the way I look at nature, the way I look at green things, plants, in the house, because then I will be taught botany. Okay? And so, if epistemic justice can be brought to the primary school, maybe in the interiors where most prevalent tribal language can be spoken, and one of those by lottery or otherwise could become a medium of conversation education in those schools, at least in class 1 and 2. They would take off from there because the cognition has begun in the brain. And it did. This is my more than 55-year question, okay? I went to class 1, you can guess my age, in 1968, and language was the barrier for me. I was only able to understand plus and minus, and therefore I took to mathematics probably. All right? But then the problem is, every child for last 55 years after my that struggle has also faced that. How much more should we allow them to suffer? And if the barrier stops them at primary, can they come to MRS? If MRS somehow, I visited one of them in Kenyambeta, and I was told the children take at least 2 days to come back. I was told they have to walk 1 day to get to home after the bus. Should they? If all the children who come back in good time, okay, because they have conveyance, but if this one child or two, if they have to walk 1 way, 2 extra days, should they not come back after 2 days? There has to be this kind of sensitivity. And therefore, if the system is also going to be amicable for them because of these sensitivities, probably the ecosystem that one would require for education, the entire educational environment, the life experiences feeding into the epistemic and learning justice will happen. And therefore, I'm talking about a euphoric picture again, where education is a product, but learning is a process. And so I'm looking for a primary school. I'm looking for those Anganwadis where learning begins for a child. Primary school, they learn, and thereafter they are learning and learning. And so I'm sure that way, if the learning happens, even the examination system, which most of us detest, I'm quite sure these students would be able to do very well in those examinations, because they are not going to memorize the lessons, they would have learned it. And make any question in the examination a smart one also. I'm sure the smart students. Now this thing that I'm talking about, the medium of instruction, is a matter of equal opportunity. If equal opportunity for a child whose mother tongue is Hindi, going to a Hindi medium school is the environment, but then a child whose mother tongue is not Hindi and has to learn in a Hindi medium school Isn't it an unequal opportunity? So it is. And this is the barrier in itself brings an unsafety to a child's learning environment. And therefore, while in Sidhu Kanu Murmu University, I started a game. I talked about a game which was not only win-win, but win-win-win game. All right? So, if learning can become a win-win-win game, be it primary, be it secondary, be it higher secondary, be it higher education, it's the learner who learns, it's the institution who would tick that, oh, we've got so many tribal students, Adivasis of this tribe, Adivasi of that tribe. So institution gets the tick mark for NIRF or NAC or whatever, all right? The community must be the other one in this win-win-win game. Now, a university such as Sidhu Kanu Murmu University, and likewise, the centers of research, tribal research, we have, I was told, Kannur University also has a campus, and Calicut also has a campus in Wayanad, all right? Now, if these institutions are not owned by the Adivasis, in terms of advising, or in terms of judging some of the research that must be done there, then where is democracy in this process? And then to assume that knowledge is directly proportional to degree, I think we've lost it. Knowledge is not directly proportional to degree. And I'm sure all of us would remember our grandparents who may have been literate, not literate, were very, very knowledgeable. And so, here is what I would imagine in my euphoric picture, is the community sentiment also contributes to the curriculum of class 1 and 2 in the primary school. Not more. After that, let them have the textbooks, okay? The life skill education as well as adult literacy for the Adivasi parents could be in the same school location where the child may have gone to the school at certain time, but then parents also go at another time. So school, that is how the school is owned, or the school premise is owned by the community. And it becomes an integral part of the community rather than one school which was opened by somebody and closed by somebody. If these life skills, which Adivasis are naturally alleged to have had, because we are very, very inhibitive. I have outgrown that probably because, senior citizen by now and otherwise. But then, these life skills, not only for the students, skills also for school dropouts and college dropouts, as adult education for the parents. Everybody, and with the skill training, it's very important to also impart one module which is about their rights as laborers, rights as maybe helping in a particular industry, their health safeties, and everything. And it's not about skilling alone. And I'm sure in a state like Kerala, if I cannot speak this, I wouldn't be able to speak anywhere else. And therefore, I mustered the courage to speak here. The last thing I remember from my participation in Keralium is how about evaluating the teachers? The teachers, what I remember is one of the, I think he was from education department in Norway or somewhere, and he mentioned that each primary level teacher is mandated to publish a research paper based on her or his experience of having taught that. And see, unless we teachers also take it on us for learning from teaching a particular class, we do not contribute to the top topic or subject called education. We only draw salaries for doing a particular duty, like injection or medicines that the nurses must be administrating. And education is both way. The teacher learns from the class, and most of us from JNU would profess that the teachers, the same subject, teaching of same subject, I can vouch for it. I teach discrete math to different batches, and I would teach it differently. It doesn't only happen in social sciences, it can happen in computer science too. And so one learns from the batch, and if that learning is not happening for teachers in primary, I think a very, very important input is missed out into education and the SCRTs and etc., in order to take it to the next level. And therefore, I would come back to if epistemic justice cannot be considered for academic justice for all, including those in the urban poor also for some reason are unable to access education or quality education. It's not only a matter of SDG 4, right? It is about educational justice. And so not last at the Keralium, I had talked about last and the lost, those who do not reach the school, therefore literacy is lower, so they are the last. Those who drop out are the lost, but today I'm speaking for the least also. So it is the last and the lost of the least, and therefore let the target also be as and where it can be fluid, that is being in the higher education, having worked in, and having done this kind of epistemic justice as higher education, I think it is very, very important to have epistemic justice at primary school, at the entry level, because the dignity which can be equal of each learner of their own backgrounds, or of their own food that they eat, or the language that they speak, if doesn't have equality in treatment, inequality begins. That is how inequality begins. And therefore, the challenges are not really global progress, learning gaps, COVID and teacher shortage, which is there in northern India. I'm sure it is not here, but still, I think the one last thing that I would like to mention is, as part of epistemic justice, and this is what I am at the moment, my colleague from Simon Fraser University, who comes from the Department of Education, and I paired up, and we were appointed as UNESCO chair in transforming indigenous knowledge, research, governance, and rematriation. So this is one of the last assignments, or my passion post-retirement. Now, what am I talking here is part of transforming indigenous knowledge, research, governance. Data sovereignty is very important. I was told that one of the tribes' healing system was documented. It would have, needless to say, it would have been done by one of the universities, maybe Department of Anthropology or wherever. I'm sure the research scholars who were engaged, or those interns or whoever was engaged in this process, documentation has happened. It must be in the annals of the government records. Who benefits? Who benefited from it? Did the community get an iota of what these individuals who benefited from doing the documentation? The benefit is never shared with the community from whom it has been extracted, if I may use that word very responsibly. And therefore, data sovereignty is very important, and knowledge governance. And therefore, And this is one. And the second thing is, why are we so passionate about the word sustainable, sustainability, sustainable, and etc., where Adivasis have sustained all the changes that have happened, taken place so far? Okay? Probably we have ways to also contribute in algorithmic design, which can be for climate action a better one. And so, unless engagement, respectful engagement and equal treatment is meted out to all, deliberative processes of engaging class 1, 2 curriculum, as well as other epistemic products could be, epistemic inputs could be brought into the university systems. I think there is a lot of opportunity beyond bridging the gap of literacy. And with these words, being very hopeful that epistemic justice, decoloniality, data sovereignty would help us address the algorithmic exclusions, data colonialism, and digital epistemic injustice. Thank you very much.
I would now call upon Professor Ravindran. Professor Ravindran has led one of Kerala's public universities and brings deep experience in balancing academic autonomy, social responsibility, and regional development needs. My question to Professor Ravindran: Kerala wants to position itself as a higher education hub with globally competitive institutions, while also ensuring universities serve local development challenges and marginalized communities. In practical terms, what does this dual mandate mean for curriculum design, faculty recruitment, research priorities, and industry partnerships? How do we avoid becoming either purely academic and disconnected or purely vocational and narrow?
Thank you. Thank you. And the last speaker, I won't make sure that we can all leave quickly. So I'll just stick to 10 to 12 minutes. So I've been listening to various speeches being made since last evening on Vision 2031. And most importantly, it reflects great confidence. Confidence on the part of the government that they can very quickly develop in a large number of fields. And I think with Kerala's history, that confidence is not misplaced. I remember during COVID, I was in Kannur at that time, and there was Amartya Sen was speaking. We heard him online, and he recalls a conversation with EMS Namboodiripad, where when he goes to meet EMS in Delhi, EMS says that Kerala is soon going to have the best healthcare in India. And Sen said he didn't say anything, but he was quite skeptical of it. But then we see that today Kerala has the best healthcare, not just in India, but across many other countries too. So Kerala has had this record of doing things which other states did not even try to do. And I'm not going to repeat the whole story of how great we were and how we have achieved literacy, land reform, literacy, everything. We won't repeat that. But today, and I did this, made this only for a graph, not for anything. You see, there's I don't know whether you can see a graph. This is a 1983 article by an educationist who talks about trying to locate the university in terms, at one end of the graph, of the triangle, is the academic oligarchy, or what we call the university. At the other vertex is the state, and the third vertex is the market. Okay. Now, all universities in India were started by the state, whether the colonial state or later the independent government state. So, and not just in India, other places also the state did play a major role. But from the 1980s onwards, especially late 80s onwards, we find that the market is becoming increasingly important. And the state has started, not just with Modi in 2014, but even before that, they had started abdicating the space of higher education to the market. We see the Birla Ambani reforms, early 2000 and so on. So the state is now moving in a big way, and this is a major market for the state. We all know that education is a major market, and with technology, the market has become even more lucrative. So what is happening is that the autonomy of the university has gone down. So why I'm saying all this in reply to Dr. Unikrishnan's question is, what is the context? The context is, today we have a state which in other ways has started encroaching hugely. First we saw the NEP, and now we have this VBSA, Viksit Bharat Shiksha Adhishtan, we should all learn Sanskrit, Adhishtan Bill, Act now. It's, the draft act was placed before Parliament last month. Now, if that VBSA will come, and maybe it might come, because I don't know who can stop VBSA from coming in Parliament, then what will all of us do? How are we going to stop it? We don't have the numbers to stop it in Parliament. What does I'm just saying VBSA because it is the most direct and naked form of centralization that we have experienced so far, which says that the central government, it goes on saying central government, which no other, earlier they would say the government. Now they make a difference that we are the central government. So the central government and the Ministry of Education will decide who's the chairman of this council, who are the members. Then there are these three verticals on accreditation, norm setting, and one more, accreditation, norm setting, and they have the power to fine a university, allow a university, take away, close a university. Everything will be done by the center, and this includes not just central universities, it includes every college, every university, whether private, state, or center. Okay. So this is one threat of a lurking, and very, not just lurking, it is there in our face now, of a hyper-nationalist, communal hyper-nationalism is there from the state. The market is moving very, very rapidly ahead. The market doesn't really concern whether it is hyper-nationalist or communal or anything. I mean, they will, as long as they can make some money, they will do whatever it does to move into this space that is being vacated. And then we have these universities. So what does Kerala do now? Now Kerala, I've been here, I have the advantage of being an outsider and to some extent an insider as far as higher education is concerned. When I came in 2017, I'd never studied in Kerala before that. So I was sent to Kannur University as Vice Chancellor. So, and then over these 9 years, 8 to 9 years, I saw how things changed quite rapidly in the field of higher education. And most of it, or all of it, was in the right direction. Our exam system was terrible when I came. It took 4 months, 5 months, 6 months to get the result out. Those things have all changed. Teacher recruitment has increased largely. Then funding went up, very importantly. Efficiency of university work. For a brief time I was here in Kerala University when the regular VC wasn't here. So, and this was this is the oldest university in the state. And this was even more ponderous than Kannur University. Kannur University didn't have any teachers when I came. It had 20 teachers, which would be much less than a college. So what I'm saying is that, yes, so by the time I left, we had 75 teachers, from 20 to 75 over so many years. It was a good thing. So higher education has moved forward fairly rapidly. And as far as accreditation and ranking went, yes, we did very well in the last, over the last 8 years or 10 years. And when we came, then what I found interesting was, and that was this thing when I came here, COVID was the other thing. When COVID was in a way tested our universities. And yes, there were problems like all, but we were much, much, much better than Northern India and Central universities, which are much better funded, huge staff. But Kerala, I think, survived COVID very well. Even today in Delhi, students come and tell you, we are from the COVID classes, so don't ask us any questions. Okay. So COVID was that bad, and Delhi University is still not able to systematize its calendar after COVID. So all that we have escaped through hard work, whatever it is, through. And here, yesterday, we talked about democracy, and I think the earlier speaker was a bit skeptical about democracy here. But democracy here, yes, you need democracy, not everybody who's participating in the system. I'm not going to say they are all equally participating, some. But in Kerala, I know every time I used to announce an examination calendar, I mean, somebody will come, KSU will come, or SFI will come, or some MSF would come, somebody will come. So best thing then we said, let's call all of them. So we used to call all of them, and they would sit there, and then the exam calendar was made, and then get them to agree that now we won't ask for any changes. And it worked largely. Yes, something would, mostly it worked. So I'm saying, politics is very often held out against Kerala. I think it works for Kerala. It allows for association. You might agree with some, you might not agree with some, or even the way they do politics. But there being a political presence allows a more systematic dialogue between different points of view, between different interests, between different communities. So democracy at that level. When NEP came, it was called new, now it's national, but at that time there was a lot of discussion. Teachers associations, teachers unions, students unions were all called, talked to. Professor Rajan Gurukul's Higher Education Council was coordinating all that. And when the new syllabi were made, again the Higher Education Council took it upon themselves to go to various universities, talk to teachers, talk to students. Where else in India has all this happened? I've seen in Delhi, NEP, they were the first to accept immediately. Kerala took a long time accepting with some modifications, taking over the FIU, GP and so on. But in the north, there was no discussion, no debate. So they have accepted NEP, but NEP doesn't make much of, academically, nothing is happening because of NEP, except for the fact that there's a further communalization of school syllabi in the NCERT books. We have the so-called Indian knowledge system, from which Muslims are out of the Indian knowledge system. That has come, that has become accepted. So those changes have come. So when today, if you ask me what should Kerala do, one more thing, money. Money is something which is not easy to come by, funding. And where are we going to get the funds to take all this forward? One way is to tax the student, increase student fees, raise resources internally. Basically, it means raise fees, which Kerala should not do and cannot do also, I think, because I think in all the regular universities, the 4 big universities, about 80% of the students are, what are they called? E-grant receivers. So e-grants meaning that it is more or less subsidized, right? It's free. So we can't do that. Where do we get the money from? Till now, under various schemes, we have been getting money, especially in the sciences, from the center. And through some schemes such as RUSA and so on. But that is marginal to the general expenditure on higher education. So we have to think about the funding. So the question to me was, how do you go forward? How can we go forward? And develop world-class centers as well as defend equity. World-class centers, there are some departments in the state spread across universities which are doing excellent work in their own fields, in chemistry, in biotechnology, in physics. We should get, and this is one of the recommendations in the Planning Commission's document, which was, I think, the Higher Education Council had and the minister was there. So about 2 months ago in November, they came out with these recommendations. And I think it's an excellent recommendation that we take up the slack in the system. What is the slack in the system according to me? One, according to this report. This report says, talks about constituent colleges being made, cluster, not cluster universities, but colleges being made into clusters, and you have a lead college. Then have these clusters of colleges, make them degree-giving, degree-awarding clusters. All these are excellent, viable, and cheap alternatives which should be undertaken. The second, which is not here, but that is my opinion, since I was also asked in the letter, what is your suggestion? I think Kerala has too many universities and too many colleges. You see, you had an agriculture university which was then cut up into veterinary, fisheries, fish, animal, and so on and so forth, right? Then you had, every university had engineering and medical colleges. They were also made into medical university, which is just a collection of medical colleges. There is no university really. Or engineering university. I think our ex-vice chancellor is here, so she will agree with me. I don't know whether in public or not, but it's a coordinating body as of yet, as of now. Maybe in the future it will develop into a real university, but right now it is coordinating different engineering colleges in it. But now, I don't know why we had to wait till the NEP or the center said that we should have multidisciplinary, and just common academic sense that university, Sarvakalashala Varenadandana, you have to master various arts, various disciplines. That is the idea of a university. Anyway, we went against that. Now we are being compelled to come back. I think that's good. So that will also save the state a lot of money, because every little university will need one vice chancellor, one registrar, a car with a flag, and so on and forth. So we can spend, save on all those things, and increase inter-university student mobility. And so we can selectively target some departments, some areas, to make them world-class and give them funding, while at the same time continuing with the existing policy, which I think is highly inclusive, both in terms of, madam, it is in terms of community as well as class, as well as economic deprivation. I think the state has done a wonderful job in they have done a good job, and they've taken maximum effort in getting all disadvantaged sections into higher education also, let alone school education. So Kerala has done that, but it has to go forward, and the main thing is quality, and quality which is not going to come about. I don't know whether it will come about by 2031, but at least we have to start now. And here I think the Kerala government, unlike other governments, has invested a lot of money in research grants, Kairali awards, and so on, to make research more important. The document also talks about making research based. But for that, we have to go back to our undergraduate college education and strengthen our undergraduate education and the MA, MSc level education. Only then can this money that the government is very with great difficulty trying to allocate for this, will this bear fruit? So I think these are the challenges before Kerala, and given our earlier track record, I think we can do all this, because all this will fit into the broad parameters of a very what the center is proposing. Center might have has a different idea in making these proposals about VBSA and NEP, that it will all go into the private sector. Kerala, we can prevent the largest number of institutions catering to the largest number of people from going further into the private sector, while at the same time trying to develop some institutions, target some institutions, and make them world-class areas of excellence. Thank you.
I'm sorry, Dr. Jiju, that I've not been able to keep the time. But anyway, I will make my presentation as short as possible so that we can have a closure of the session. I would basically connect what our discussions have actually happened, and also briefly respond to Dr. Rajan's point on whether we can actually intervene in the Gen Z education design itself meaningfully, is one of the fundamental questions he had raised. Now, what distinguishes Kerala's approach is not just the policy aspirations, but the operational architecture. I would talk basically about the operational architecture, some of the things which have actually happened in Kerala in general education, higher education, in which my institution and I was also involved. I will just run through that and then address some of the issues which have been raised. Okay, initially we started off with school education, where the focus had been on moving from rote learning to conceptual understanding. In fact, C. Ramakrishnan was also raising the relevance of this. We had a number of initiatives in this, which I was also referring to in the early discussions. The one program on mathematics, where we were, is being a very foundational aspect of modern learning. The primary school maths, where we were looking at how children could develop number sense, reasoning, and the ability to apply maths in real life context. So this was what we had been doing as a part of the program called Manjadi. And Madam, to answer you, we started off this program in MRS. Not because the general schools were not interested, but we purposefully decided to start it off in MRS, and also to start off in locations where Adivasis and fisher folk and scheduled caste students were there. That was how we started with our pilot. We had also another program called Manjadi, where we were looking at, Maravilla, which we were looking at basically integrated science learning and also promoting scientific temper. Essentially to see how what children learn as a part of their primary education can apply in real life problem solving, is what we had been trying to look at it. This actually operationalized what Dr. Ramakrishnan and Professor Johnny had been talking about. Playful, inquiry-based, dignified learning, which essentially builds sound conceptual foundations for later critical thinking. That was the objective of this particular program. We had problem-based learning with participation of industry in the higher education. That was the second component. Sorry, I think I have gone. Wrong slide. So we have scientific temper through experimentation. And then along with that, we had also looked at how we could, in fact, what we had been doing through this is to look at how to operationalize the objective of the Kerala curricular framework, to basically to look at how we can move to activity-based, inquiry-oriented contextual learning with scaffolding, of course with teachers at the center. At the college level, we had initiated a very interesting exercise where we wanted to improve the capability of the students to go beyond what are the capabilities which are provided by ChatGPT, whether it is to a teacher and to the student, to look at real-life problem solving, to problems around them and to how they can actually solve that. This was what we had tried out. We had tried this out. Essentially, we had brought in, for the first time, we had brought in the concept of design thinking from Stanford University. Even before the Startup Mission or anybody in Kerala had talked about it, was we as a part of this Young Innovation Program, which we have taken the support of the Director of Public Instruction, the SSK, and also the SCRT. All of us had been helping. The Higher Education Department, Shanawaz, when he was the DG, was also very actively involved in the program, helping us with building this particular program. So essentially, we had been using, number one, to come up with real-life problems. Of course, children had been picking up a lot of problems from ChatGPT also. But what we had been trying to do is, number one, we had been trying to relate that problem to the local context, to create a microcosm of what is the quadruple helix at the local level, where we are bringing in a local domain expert, a local startup founder, and trying to relate that with the problem so that we have the domain and technology support available. And the teacher remains a facilitator. Teacher is not actually passing on information of what has been, what is available elsewhere, but a real life problem is attempted to be solved. So essentially we brought in community of practice with a lot of practitioners also came as a part of the program. We were trying to actually replicate the quadruple helix at the school level. It's a very interesting exercise. And I am very proud to say that we have been able to obtain 17 patents. Of course, there are limitations of the intellectual property system which has been created by techno-capitalism. But 17 school students, high school students, have been able to come up with patents within the framework of the intellectual property domain. In fact, the performance of the school students have been much better than the college students. That's also worth saying. So this is what an exercise that we have initiated at the school level, at the college level, and in terms of interdisciplinarity. I'll tell you very interestingly, hundreds of questions were being raised when I talked about interdisciplinary problem solving. The chemistry professor asking, how can I judge a student coming with a part of a program in life sciences? How can I judge that? How can I assess that? These were all questions raised. In Victoria College, I mean, you should be very proud of a student, undergraduate student who was a commerce student, had joined together with a master's chemistry student and a postgraduate student and a life science student. And all of them had come up with a interdisciplinary problem and a solution for that. So, I mean, there are issues in terms of how evaluation can be done and how these things, because this evaluation was not part of the academic framework. It was outside the academic framework. We had a panel of experts coming in and evaluating the program, and that was how it was done. There are challenges when we start trying to integrate it to schools with the formal education system. Shanawaz had initiated the whole the process of trying to giving credit, the process of credit, linking this with the credit system in the universities, and also how to link it with the academic program in schools have just initiated. I am hopeful that we will be in a position to link this formally to the minor credits and credit systems. We have started off in KTU. With the KTU new revised framework, we are tried to do that, and in Kannur University we have initiated a program by which we can integrate this completely with the FIEGP, because FIEGP provides opportunities for that also. So we have essentially brought in design thinking and higher order thinking integrated into the FIEGP program, actually as a part of the this particular Young Innovators program. And in KTU, we have been able to create a problem repository of problems which the various departments and various local governments have come up. We have created a problem repository, and we have initiated a program whereby we are throwing open these problems for minor projects and major projects of the students in the KTU. This has been integrated as a part of their new curriculum reform. In fact, the first batch in the 5th semester is going to look up some of these local problem-solving exercises as a part of their academic projects. So we have been able to create problem repositories which are industry designed and community validated. I am not saying that these are all perfect sort of systems, but we have made a beginning in trying to intervene in the academic process, trying to connect the local economic development with the academic program. Now coming to employability. We have tried to link this higher order thinking, critical thinking, and innovation aspects with skilling and also with employment. Dr. Rajan was saying there would be ATMs where degrees would be printed, and then computers will be forwarding the degree certificates to institutions which would require the talent and create a talent pool. I'm sure that there would be such transformations which are happening. But we have been able to create virtual job fairs on a weekly basis. We have support of Jay Prakash and other people. Every Saturday, all the engineering colleges in the state and some of the major arts and science colleges, polytechnics have been connected. With QP support, we have connected 50 institutions at the first phase. We will be, by February end, we will be having another 50. So altogether, 100 institutions will be connected. There will be more than one location in a taluka. So at these centers, these are a skill development platform, Kerala extensions, where there is a provision for people from the industry, experts, to actually interact with the students in their classrooms. So basically, it's a high quality virtual connectivity facility. But along with that, what we have done is, we have thrown open this facility to employers throughout the country. Employers are connecting with the campuses. And every day, every Saturday, there is a virtual job fair happening, where we have provided access to the talent pool here to address the issue of employability. This is working. And there are also, now last week, we had people with disability also brought in as a part of the program. We have a special program running for scheduled caste and scheduled tribe department students, wherein we are providing separate grooming support also for them to attend these interviews. We have also designed something called a recruit, train, deploy model. Whenever we talk about recruit, train, deploy model, there is a danger of the market taking over the entire system. But what we have done is, we have made all this with the public education system at the center. For instance, there is a program which is run by the Tata Consultancy Services, a recruit, train, deploy program. We have ensured that that is administered, number one, by the teachers of the various engineering colleges themselves. The content is provided by them. They provide some support also, but the teachers administer them. And over a period of time, there are a few sessions which they handle. There are a few additional components that we have added. For instance, the component on higher order thinking has been brought by us specifically into the whole program. So we had created a process whereby we have empowered the public education system to intervene, to negotiate with the industry, and to see what are the sort of skills that are to be imparted to the students. And we are providing them before the training program starts, after, of course, an assessment, straight away a recruitment offer. And after the training is completed, they are deployed. So this is one of the very important interventions that we've initiated. We have initiated technology processes like in electric vehicle, where with the support of, Dr. Rajeshri and with the support of KIFBI, we have initiated a major program called EV Park, wherein practical training in battery technology, in powertrain systems are also possible in Kerala. We have, as a part of the program, developed the first lithium titanate battery in the country, domestically, with the support of Vikram Sarabhai Space Center, using the titanium dioxide from the titanium factory. And also the first lithium iron phosphate indigenous battery is also going to be, we are in the initial POC stage. So this is one of the programs where we have linked the RTD program to a technology domain. We have also have support from Netrasimi and a few other companies who are working in risk and embedded systems. We have brought in those also. AVGC XR, we have brought in a variety of companies who are working on virtual reality. Dr. Rajan had been talking about how children of the new generation will be able to have tactile feelings and stuff like that. So augmented reality, virtual reality, we have it tied up with the Sectoral Skill Council in this particular domain, psych, and we are now running recruit, train, deploy programs around that. Data analytics, AI, and related areas also, we have designed programs, recruit, train, deploy programs around this. There are definitely quite a lot of uncertainties with the technology transformations, with the sort of how AI is going to change the workplace and things like that. But as usual, we have to address these uncertainties and look at possible alternative models of how to address this. We might not have a complete design solution for the new gen students' problems, but we have to look at alternatives which are possible. And I am sure that these alternatives are not anywhere else in the country, and these have been tried out only in Kerala. So I am hopeful that with these initiatives, which are focusing on higher order thinking, innovation, and also addressing some of the important technology domains, we won't be just consumers of new technology, but we might be also able to intervene in some of technology domains and create some capabilities internally so that we can be globally competitive. Next. Next slide. Now, for local economic development, we had one local government, one idea, one district, one idea, and also another very important program where we had been going beyond IT and then looking into genomics, because this one very important area where we had been looking at how to improve Kerala's health system as well as in areas of precision medicine and also agriculture and animal husbandry sector. We are establishing for the first time, a state government is going to establish, the Honorable CM is going to initiate this the data center for Kerala Genome Data Center is going to be inaugurated on 27th of this month. It's a very interesting exercise where we are trying to bring in genomic research, cutting edge research available for the higher education institutions and for the state to address the issues of precision medicine and agriculture. So essentially we are trying to create student engagement in solving second generation development problems through all these initiatives. I am hopeful that there are a lot of challenges in terms of employability, in terms of AI taking away jobs and addressing upsetting the instruction processes in the campuses and the education systems. But we need not be really pessimistic about this. We can create solutions for our students to address some of these challenges and also address some of the issues of local economic connecting the education system with local economic development. I think I will close my session for want of time, and I will request Dr. Vasugi to do the consolidation.
Good evening, dear ones. I think we've had a very elaborate and stimulating sessions given by various speakers, coming from their own areas of expertise and experiences. The key takeaways, I'm not going to take much time because we are already well past our time. So very shortly, I would like to summarize the key takeaways from today's presentation. So all of us know, it's something that we already know. But the point is, what are we going to do with what we know? That is, yes, a lot of things are going to change. A lot of things are going to be uncertain. And as somebody had put it, we are trying to educate a generation by a generation who's actually increasingly becoming outdated. So it is going to be very, very tough endeavor in the coming days. AI is going to disrupt everything. And so we need to disrupt our systems too. But are we ready? Is the biggest question we have in front of us. You know, just to share a personal experience, we once were getting trained in one of the leading academic institutions for administrators. So we wanted to do something. We wanted something as probationers. So we asked the management to, do something for us. And you know what they said? They said, we don't have a precedence of doing it. So it will be difficult for us to get it done. So we always rely on precedents, traditions, systems, established systems, certainty, and stuff like that. We are so used to that. You know, this precedents and traditions and systems and procedures. But in the coming days, we have to get out of this comfort zone, is what is my biggest takeaway from today's discussions. And what really stuck with me are some of the speakers, what they said. I'm not going to elaborate each and every one, but one is, of course, you know, in this era of machines and AI, the main purpose of education is to equip our future citizenry to do things that the machines cannot do. I think that is a wonderful way of putting it. I really love that statement. And also, the speaker who talked about the tribal knowledge systems, something we have mostly neglected, because I have worked in a tribal district, and I feel that their knowledge systems are far superior, and as rightly pointed out, they've been sustainable for, thousands of years. Maybe there is a lot of things we can learn from them. So, and of course, the inclusive education, and the fact that, how to cover the last mile for Kerala, making the tribals and, even the last person to ensure that they learn. And above all, how to equip them to be, equip them when it comes to, the changing job scenarios and how to make them equipped for changing jobs. So I'm sure a lot of great takeaways have come, and we have all documented all of them. And all of this will be beautifully compiled, and I'm sure we will be able to create a very futuristic document on how we are going to transform the education sector. And I hope that Kerala can once again make history in equipping ourselves for the future ahead. Thank you so much for all the speakers, and thank you for the audience for your patient listening. And thank you for all the organizers who made today's session a grand success. Thank you.
As a token of appreciation to the panelists, I would request Sri Ramakrishna also to come to the dais. It's a memento from the
Dr. Jonah Kangas. Dr. A.K. Shivaguma, Dr. R. Ramakrishnan, Dr. C. Ramakrishnan, Professor Rajan Gurukal, Professor Sonajarya Mintz, Professor Gobinath Ravindran, Dr. Vasugi ma'am, Sri Sanavas sir, So I'm moving to my official responsibility. We, the Planning Board, wholeheartedly thank the Honorable Minister for General Education and Honorable Minister for Higher Education for their inspirational speak. I thank all the distinguished speakers, Dr. Jonah Kangas, Dr. A.K. Shivagumar, Dr. C. Ramakrishnan, Professor Rajan Gurukal, Professor Sonajarya Mintz, Professor Gobinath Ravindran. I extend my sincere thanks to the moderator, Dr. P.B. Unnikrishnan, and also thank Dr. K. Vasugi, IAS Secretary, General Education Department, Sri Shanabas, IAS Secretary, Labor and Skills Department. I also thank the respected guests, delegates, officials, CEDIT, Public Relations Department, and the management of this hotel. Once again, I thank all the participants for successful completion of this program. Thank you so much.